now, and she seemed to be one of the harder mechanical gods when he first came to Xbox. So I think that's becoming less of a thing for console.
Ooh, I hear the music. I didn't know we were ready. It is picks and bans for game number 1, RivaL versus Flashpoint, the semifinals for the console league here. Winner of this is going to be going up against Astral Authority tomorrow for the World Finals of Console League.
And I don't know what these two teams are going to prioritize, but I know that that man on your screen is going to be looking to play aggressive, the little young vaporish Coast.
Well, why you gotta call him a little young, man?
Because,
that is a ferocious man right there.
No, during LAN, we actually had admins bring him some juice boxes because he needed a refreshment.
Well, hey, maybe you're a little low on your blood sugar, you need to pick me up, and that can definitely affect gameplay. It's that mentality, and that's something that I think RivaL was really all about, is that their mentality going into this, they feel aggressive, they feel ready.
That might be the case here, but so far, similar bans as opposed to the PC side.
Yeah, not much of a surprise here. Merc still top pick, top ban on console as it is on PC, same with Freya and Odin. Seeing what FP is going to ban, maybe the Erlang. Yeah, Erlang is banned. RivaL could look for their early... I don't even know.
Pele is open if they really wanted to. That's a lot about the PC side, but knowing RivaL's Rapio, he has a very flexible god pool.
Is it possible that we're going to be seeing a Fenrir? Because Fenrir honestly has been the most contested god during the PC side of things.
Considering that Rapio also likes the Fenrir, I wouldn't be surprised if it is first picked.
Now, what are we going to see between RivaL and Flashpoint as far as aggression in the early game, mid game? What are we going to see?
I know RivaL picks early solo laners who also can fight early and will win lane usually. That's what they did last LAN, that's what they did the spring LAN, and they will probably prioritize something like that.
So maybe taking Erlang Shin out of the equation because of that, and we have the Alpwash coming out.
Well, Alpwash has gotten popular in the PC side, no surprise in the console, and if anything, console was the one to really popularize this pick specifically, as it has just so much AoE damage and control, very difficult to dive into it, and that's why Geb is selected, because if RivaL get Geb and Alpwash, you are never killing this mid laner.
And I know RivaL's mid laner, Fly, he loves Zeus, he loves Alpwash, he likes those immobile mages like PC players do that do a lot of damage and just sit in place and just kill or be killed.
Smart pickup for the Dodgy after the fact, because you want to make sure that you remove some cleanses to allow that Powwow to actually pull members in.
So taking Geb with the Dodgy, that definitely helps. But then what are we going to see in response? Maybe another guy, a Chiron potentially?
It could be the case, but knowing Vaporish Coast, Chiron, you don't want to be too aggressive with to start things off. Coast has been leaning a lot on the Hachiman, the Hu Yi, trying to make those flashy plays.
And he likes his Ullr too, and Ullr's a pretty good pick in the Geb because it punishes the early game and can like snowball it, get the red buff, get the purple buff. I expect Coast to pick something early game to try and punish that Geb. Maybe that Fenrir that PC players pick could be picked into the Geb too.
We will overrun our enemies.
Terra coming out instead, and then we have one more pick for RivaL's side. What would you like to see, Anatoly?
Pele is still available. It's still a good goddess to be able to initiate, but Sun Wukong, it was demonstrated by Deathwalker that this god still has a lot of value.
I mean, that's what you were saying inbound, is that they might want that early aggression, solo laner. What does Sun Wukong provide that? Does he fit that role?
Yeah, he's mostly not looking to fight in the solo lane. He's looking to clear that wave as quick as possible and then rotate across the map.
Wow, two sides of the same coin. Zeus in reflection of Alpwash here. Very similar gods.
Before the secondary ban phase, if you want that immobile mage that has a lot of damage, it's now or never, because RivaL would have probably opted to take it away.
It's interesting though, because never mind. Raijin might just be a pick that we see on one team or another, but I think that he's a pretty dominant god and can even be...
If you have enough control for setup, you might not need to play the Raijin, because you could just go for this all-out damage god such as the Zeus. So outside of Geb and Najee, you still have your solo laner of choice, and there's quite a few options that can play setup.
It looks like Flashpoint heard you. They banned out that Pele. They don't want to see it, not today.
And I know Krim likes playing these immobile mages with the Geb and the Khepri because he feels extra safe, and he can play even farther up because he knows he has that cleanse and 600 shield that Geb will provide for him. And
Ullr ban.
Ullr ban.
No surprise, actually, considering, well, actually,
Keeps
yeah,
likes it too.
Flashpoint has the next pick, so that's why. Even though Vaporish Coast likes it for himself, you got to think like next level. Okay, they have next pick, let's not deal with the Ullr.
Looks like they're just banning ADCs right now. They don't really want to give them the best ones, but Chiron's still available. Rom, but Rom with those snipes might be a little bit harder in a console game.
Good cleanup, though, in general. Like, if you have some sort of burst damage, but you're afraid that they're going to get away, especially knowing that Geb can save a lot of teammates, Rom wouldn't be a bad idea.
Chiron getting picked for Flashpoints. How are you feeling about that inbound?
They're just going to protect the Zeus in the late game, and probably the Geb is going to be looking to shielding the Dodgy, I expect, while Chiron will peel for the Zeus, and then Geb will turn around and try to help out the Zeus.
That training exercise is another form of cleanse that you can deal with. Terra blink engagements, trying to prevent some of that root action. Also, a little bit of sustain from the Chiron with the herbal medicine passive.
So you think Flashpoint's going for the mid to late game here, not really the early game?
Absolutely. Between this Geb-Zeus combination, it's just screaming team fighting in the late.
It doesn't really seem like RiVaL's going for the early build, though, picking potentially Hachiman, but just hovering over him and not finishing out their pick just yet.
I would like to see Hachiman Artio, and then maybe run like Terra, Soul Lane, Sun Wukong, Jungle.
Such a tanky team.
It is, but I mean, you have a lot of damage in the backline between Opwash and Hachiman.
Big front line for the Opwash, allow him to free cast and not allow him to get dove that easily also.
A Bakasura.
Spicy pick, Bakasura. Baka Jungle could, just bounces between camps very quickly, controls a lot of farming, and has the even potential to steal camps. So if you're going to be Jumpa, you need to have vision of where Rapio is going.
And he is locked in, indeed, the first Bakasura of the tournament. But Flashpoint, how do you want them to respond?
The mother bear is very...
And that's how you don't get to answer. Anatoly, you got what you wanted.
Artio is always going to be a good pick regardless, if it's in the solo lane, if it's in the support role. Seeing that it's Geb, probably not going to see Geb in the solo lane in this case. Knowing
Not Divios.
That's Divios thing.
Not a Divios thing. If it's going to be Matt Koi's, I see the Geb.
Exactly, yeah. As soon as you see the Geb lock in, 99% of the time it's going to go to Koi. Same with the Khepri, just Koi's gods.
Inbound, what are you expecting from the start of this game? Are that everyone just going to kind of play their roles, not too much early aggression?
Before that, Bakasura and Hachiman were locked in. I thought RiVaL was going to play for those team fighting stages, allow the Wukong to rotate for those mid-game team fights. But now with the Bakasura, Hachiman, and then the Zeus Dodgy on the FP side, I expect them just to both farm out and then look for those mid to late game team fights.
I'm worried about RiVaL's 2-on-2. Bakasura Outwash doesn't have like much control, so they're gonna have to kind of wait for Terra to be in a position to rotate, to be the one to start things off.
But when does that happen?
Around like level 6, like 5 to 6, once you have the Earth and Fury as a support, you want to start rotating.
The one thing about RiVaL though is Dean loves to play around duo, so he may not even rotate that much. He does like looking to gank for Coast and get him that lead.
All right, looking at these two teams in the comps, how do you like it? Who are you giving it to?
If it gets to the late game, I'm gonna favor Flashpoint.
I think Flashpoint will just win either way. I don't think
You're
they'll
not
be
biased. You're not.
No, not biased at all.
All right, we got 2-0 from Flashpoint here at the Alienware Analyst Desk. Casters, who do you think it goes to?
It's definitely hard to tell, but how can you not favor RiVaL? This team has so much momentum here lately, but a big set coming up. Finch and Taco here as we're just about to get into the action in just a moment on the console side. Our semifinals, the winner of this will be going to face Astral in the finals.
And talk about a bounty that you get to go up against. So Astral
Tough, yeah.
Authority as your reward for coming out of the semifinal set. But this has been a fantastic year, I think, for RiVaL.
Yes.
They had that spring victory, weren't able to repeat it in the summer, but this is their chance to strike again.
Absolutely a chance that they need, and it's not just that RiVaL are looking to revenge against Astral. Flashpoint haven't really gotten that chance to go battle in the finals. It's been Astral and RiVaL back and forth all year long. Flashpoint want to try and make their way to that table as well. A team that you saw formerly mostly as Myth, just minus Matt Koi's, that made it as the world champions last time, now trying to make their way back there again.
And it's crazy to think because this is such a spur-of-the-moment decision from this former world champions team. I mean, they bring on Matt Koi's and then they all decide once Keeks transitions back over to the box from PC after leaving Luminosity, and it's just crazy to think that they're technically the defending world champions.
They really are.
Still trying to make sure that they have that title one more time.
We got the other one right here on the desk here with us. Got to hear some of his very biased analysis. No, certainly can trust Bobby to be able to call it like he sees it. But this is a tough matchup. I don't know if I agree that it's so heavily in Flashpoint's favor. RiVaL like to have aggression in that dual lane between Coast and Dinosaur. If they can get out ahead, if they can get started early, then things certainly could get out of control for Flashpoint.
RiVaL have definitely grown a lot, not just individually, but as a team as a whole.
Yeah.
Throughout the past 2 years. I think that we have seen a lot of success from this roster because of their determination to finally be the all-out #1 champion of the console scene for Xbox.
And it's really Astro that stands in their way. Between these two, it's been back and forth. Back in spring, when they won on the console side, you saw them also win on the PC side. It felt like the land of Rival back then. Then Astral, when they were able to come back in summer, finally reclaim that crown. Now it's back here in the fall split, here at HRX at DreamHack Atlanta, where they're going to go at it once again. And I think you're right. It's not just that dual lane matchup that's important to me anymore either. I'm also looking at these junglers. How well is Jumpa going to be able to play up against Rompio in that jungle matchup? It feels like Jumpa so much when he gets into rhythm, he can take over a game himself too.
I think Jumpa is somebody who thrives off of everyone else around him. Whenever he can hear the crowd just going absolutely nuts for a hype play moment, that's where we'll really start to see Jumpa begin to take off. Rapio has always been on someone who exhibits a little bit more patience at times. I think that he has come to a general understanding of what he can and can't get away with after his many years of going up against all these North American teams.
Well, that is going to be that's like what you can expect from that matchup. But we want to break it down a little bit more. We're getting everything situated with the players. Want to make sure they got everything as comfortable as possible. We'll get it back over to the desk. They'll talk about it for a little longer. We'll get you right back into the action.
Guys, I do want to remind everyone here that this is DreamHack Atlanta. This is the first time that we're really stepping out of the Cobb Energy Center to bring Smite and Paladins and a whole bunch of other things to a bigger audience. And we really hope that you guys are appreciating it, and I know I am. HRX presented by Mixer. There's a lot of things going on here and a lot of announcements. We've announced Arthur and Merlin, the two newest gods that are going to be coming to Smite. Do you think you're going to be playing one of those, maybe? I guess they're not really support.
No, I'm bringing them to support. They're definitely getting played in support.
Going inbound, he plays everything under the sun, so yeah, not surprising that he would say that. But considering we are at a different venue, it's not going to affect RiVaL, seeing that this is their first Worlds ever. It might affect Flashpoint ever so slightly, however.
I feel like Flashpoint is a lot less confident than RiVaL is. RiVaL has been to these lands, they've been to the last two now, and they performed very well against Astro both times. They beat them in the spring, lost to them in summer. I don't know, Flashpoint has just not been on too much this entire year. They just have fallen off ever since the little mishap in spring where I left and they picked up Koi's.
The little mishap, but RiVaL has just been on the up and up. I think that since Season 5 started, not just PC RiVaL, but also the console RiVaL have just stepped it up a couple notches.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting going into this game, RiVaL versus Flashpoint, because both of these teams bring their own to the game. I mean, you said that Flashpoint's been doing a lot better at LAN, but I mean, I'm sorry, RiVaL's been doing better at LAN, but Flashpoint is the reigning world champions.
Yeah, but it's without inbound here, Kelly, so that's a big different story.
Yeah, basically it's just a big different story. Nah, but they've just, I don't know, it's just consistency mostly. Like they'll have some good showings against some teams and then they'll just kind of fall flat. Like that RiVaL set against them, they played really, really poorly. They're just all together, none of them just played very well at all.
It's all about consistency. The ceiling might be very high, but if you're not reaching that ceiling every single game, then you're gonna ultimately, you know, not even reach the finals. And that was the case, unfortunately, for Flashpoint during that summer LAN RiVaL, making it to the finals in summer, losing it to Astral, but winning it all in the spring.
But maybe that's why Flashpoint that is not super confident. And I'm not saying that they don't think that they're going to win, but maybe they're a bit more cautious. And cautious, as we've seen, can definitely play towards a team's benefit.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot more reserved players. Each and every single one of them aren't very loud. They don't really exert this, other than Jumpa. I should add Jumpa out of there. Jumpa's a confident player. But the rest of them are more reserved and they just kind of like play back, let their play do the speak or the talking. Keegs won't really shout at you, but he'll taunt you in game. And yeah, that's just kind of like their play style. But I do expect them to be excited to play, and they're definitely wanting to play.
It's a good point that you mentioned that Jumpa likes to be confident. He really likes to dive all backlines to make those plays really happen. And that man on your screen right there, Keegs' mate, the hunter for Flashpoint, transitioning out of Luminosity from that mid lane back into the hunter position. What kind of play style do you think we'll see out of him?
Keegs is like just wild with whatever he plays. He plays stuff that he wants to play, and it's not really stuff that's even meta sometimes. He did pick a lot more meta stuff this time with the Chiron. It's been picked a lot by PC. It wasn't really picked when I was playing on Xbox because it wasn't really picked on PC either. But he definitely can play almost anything because he did come from the mid lane, so he does play those mages.
The issue I'm having here inbound is the fact that not that Keegs' mate is playing the Chiron, but Matt Koi's playing the Geb does lack a little bit of early game pressure, especially when it's going to be against Vaporish Coast playing the Hachiman. But Dinosaur also playing a passive god in the Terra.
Terra does provide a little bit more than the Geb does early. Those autos for the slows allow you to confirm a lot more for the Hunter, and she's also good at grouping the wave. She can play for the buffs also if that's how they want to play it, but I don't expect them to do that against that Geb.
But we've seen some PC games go 20 minutes with only 5 kills in here. Is it possible for the console side of things, or do we see more high kill games on the console side?
I think console plays a lot more safe. The PC players, usually the junglers on PC, want to get in and they want to like shuffle things up and go for those early kills, while Jumpa especially, Rapio a little bit less, but Jumpa will just play to farm early. He is on that dodgy, he's looking to get those 2-3 items before he goes for those fights, while Rapio is also going to be looking to farm with the Bakasura, so this might be a different game for Rapio, because he does play that Ratatasker, and he looks for those early games.
It's all about the power spike items like you mentioned. On Bakasura specifically, you're going to want the Hasten Katana, make sure you chase down those individual targets, try to look for isolation. I'm not expecting the Bakasura outwash combination to start off early 2-on-2 aggressive side. It's more about what supports are going to bring to the table between this Terra and the Geb.
I do appreciate your patience, everyone, but you do not have to wait any longer, everyone. It's game number 1 of Flashpoint versus RivaL.
All right, now it's time for us to get into the action. RivaL up against Flashpoint. I appreciate you being patient with us while we bring you right into the action. And again, whoever wins this gets the luxury of getting to go up against Astral, who look very strong playing with Chapo in the support role. But again, that is for another day tomorrow. Today it is the game between RivaL and Flashpoint. And can either one of these teams, which one is the one that's going to be able to find a way to get this victory?
Either way, Finch, I am loving both of these team compositions because the power spikes come at different periods of the match, and I'm really curious to see how each side chooses to respond to those. As far as early game is concerned, you'd have to give it over to RivaL for the most part. You've got Rapio on that Bakasura. Fly as well is going to be able to exert a lot of damage with this outwash, and I'm just not really certain that Vaporage is really all that concerned about Keegs, mate, like some of these other hunters have been.
No, not at all. Vaporage Coast has never let whoever's standing across from him affect him unless he knows a specific directed taunt that would be effective against them in particular. Then maybe he might have some concern, but aside from that, Coast is just playing his game, and it very often works out for this RivaL team. One thing that I do think that is worth watching, though, is how Jumpa is going to be able to try and punish Fly. This Palau, in particular, against the immobile Opwash could potentially cause some problems.
Adaji has always been one of those go-to picks anytime a mid laner doesn't have that CC immune ultimate. For that exact reason, you want to be able to deny them the leisure of free casting from the back line. If you've got this Daoji constantly harassing your mid laner, that's going to force somebody like Predators to have to pay note to see whether or not they can actually cut Jumpa off from that. But again, leaving part of your backline exposed if you're forcing a front liner to pay attention to the enemy jungler.
And that's one more matchup. I'm so glad you brought up Predators because, I mean, I know he wouldn't want me to bring it up, but the last time they were at LAN, my man caught the hands pretty hard from Wolves in that solo lane. It was rough, just game after game after game. How do you shake something like that off, especially in a LAN environment? The mentality that Predators comes in with, being able to play like himself is going to be so important.
From a player perspective, it's entirely mental. You just have to act like it never actually took place. That's basically the only way you can ever recover for something like that, because if you just constantly run through the motions of what took place in that set against Predators and Wolves, my mans will never recover from that instance. But I think here today, Predators has had an entire split practically to focus up and understand where his shortcomings were at throughout that set up against Astral in the summer, and now is his chance to show Flashpoint that he's prepared.
Is a little bit behind Delny right now, who's playing that RDO. Predators instead is on the Sun Wukong, a pick he very much likes to play, and one that gives him the option to play aggressively. Predators is the kind of player who will dive in a situation where it makes absolutely no sense, and the rest of his team is nowhere nearby, but he'll survive, he'll bait just long enough for the rest of his team to finally come in and clean up, and Wukong with that Somersault Cloud can certainly play right into that type of style.
Oh, I'm mostly keeping an eye out for this duel lane. I know that we don't like to talk about Vaporage Coast all the time, but it's Vaporage versus Keegs. This has got to be one of the most anticipated Hunter matchups in quite some time here. And this is only the start, too, for these young Hunters.
It absolutely is. The Pentakid, a name that Vaporage Coast has absolutely earned, his pop-off at LAN, and ever since, he really hasn't slowed down. And really what's made this RivaL team so scary is that it's not as if they're reliant on Coast, like they can't do anything without him. It's that the team is really good, and also Coast could pop off at any moment. It's like this extra plan just in case something else doesn't work out that they have in their back pocket.
Right now, though, seems as if Flashpoint are able to keep Coast and Dinosaur a little bit more confined to their tower line, but feeling a bit more adventurous, trying to step up. Geb and Chiron can be a pretty difficult dual lane to try and look for any early kills on when you have the Terra on your side, because Hachiman, for as aggressive as he might want to play with the Ai Jitsu, even if he connects that stun, the kill potential is still fairly low.
Yeah, that's what a Geb can do. It might not give you a lot of pressure in the actual lane matchup, but you're right. That safety factor is hard to deal with. And once this Geb can comfortably make it to the late game, it very much reduces the options, even for Rapio, even for Coast, to try and take down some of these carries. He's so good with the shield, with the shockwave, the cataclysm, at all these options to peel for his carries.
I'm expecting this to be a heavy focus towards early game confirmation on the buffs, and then afterwards, Rapio to start maybe looking for some of those early respawn invades to try and get a little bit more of an advantage to Rival's duo lane. I want to see this Bakasura trying to abuse that Devour Minion ability, because if he's able to strip away a couple of cycles, it's not so much the experience gain as much as I'm looking towards the map control for Rival.
I'm not too surprised that this is what we're seeing. They're giving the red buff over to Coast. They've done it twice now. The second one they've given over to him, whereas much more traditional, Crimson's keeping the red buff for himself. And this is just something that Rival likes to do, give Coast every advantage over there in that dual lane, because he's the kind of guy that once he can get a lead, he never lets go of it. He's a young guy, and it feels like all he really knows is just how to dominate a dual lane.
It's not even just the advantage for Coast in the dual lane, but a fly on the outwash, you're never going to really outclear the Zeus in the mid lane. You already know that Crimson's going to have the upper hand in this matchup, so you may as well allow your Hunter every single possible advantage to get a lead, because one developing out of mid, not as likely as one coming out of the duo.
And we've got our ultimates online now for these junglers, so those mid laners have to be careful. And what is this? Our Flashpoint considering perhaps trying to go with an only Gold Fury. They're certainly right here for the moment that it spawns, and I don't think that anyone on Rival are recognizing this. The Gold Fury now has been pulled, but now Team RivaL are starting to poke their heads in a bit, and I think that might be the end for Flashpoint trying to sneak this one away.
No, or not, Finch. I think you might be a bit okay. No, you were right the first time. They just wanted the oracles afterwards. I thought for a second there,
yeah.
Four-man grouping so early on. I think after Goyce took a couple of hits out of the Gold Fury, might have realized that this is a little bit too much for us to go for right away, a little bit too ambitious.
Ultimate here largely just for trying to get some extra clear, but they might pay for it as the Earth and Fury ends up coming out in Coast. Who else finds first blood on the Matt Koi's Rival already on the board?
Blinking from Jumpa, but it's gonna be for nothing. In the end, it's just Rival coming out with a free kill onto McCoy's, abusing this Geb for his low survivability in the early game.
And that's unfortunate. I gotta think Keegs was using the ultimate there early on to try and clear the wave out, but if they could have had that for the actual fight, who knows if that could have made a potential difference and tried to help keep Matt Koi's alive. But unfortunately, it is the Geb that ends up taking the early spill. Now it's Rival that, off the back of an early gank in dual lane, get off the ground running here first in this match. And isn't it just, Coast didn't even do a whole lot in that, but isn't that just how it works that the kill ends up going over to him?
And that's exactly the way it should be, though, at the very start of a match. A Rival, if they can give Coast first bloods every single game, I can assure you they will, because they know that he will use it at every possible opportunity to try and bully Keegs away from this dual lane. And having that kill advantage is not necessarily a guaranteed experience lead, because as you can see, it's Keegs who's actually leading with level 7.
And they have a difference in the build path they're going. Keegs electing to go right into those boots right away to give himself extra mobility, whereas Coast has slowed things down a bit. He's got the Devourer's Gauntlet and is working on his stacks. I wouldn't be surprised if Coast wants to go into the Transcendence. It's just going to be a much later spike from him as opposed to Coast. As soon as those boots are online, he'll be swimming.
I like this though from Vaporish Coast, because Chiron having that masterful shot, as long as he gets a single auto attack, Keegs is going to be able to poke out Vaporish. So having the Devo gloves for sustain in the long term, I think, is probably going to favor this Hachiman a little bit better than the Chiron, but Keegs probably just looking for initial burst damage to try and better assist Flashpoint or Jumpa as he's looking for the dive commit.
I imagine we're probably going to end up seeing, as we've got the Bakasura here, the Hasten Katana into the Atalanta's bow, a discussion we've had numerous times. We'll see if that is the path that Rapi wants to go, as he's already got the Ninja Tabai as that first item, wants to make sure he has as much attack speed as possible. So hey, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if that one comes out.
Oh, Rapio now going a little bit deeper than Delaney might have been bargaining for. Delaney trying to confirm his own blue buff. Doesn't look as though Rapio's interested in contesting. It's going to be a steal, though, from Predators with the Jingo Bang.
Comes in at the last moment and drops down the cudgel. Got to be frustration there for Predator, or for Delaney rather, as Predator sneaks in at the last moment. He might have been a little bit preoccupied with where Rapio was, but it was actually the Sun Wukong, and there's a gank in dual lane. Coast could be in trouble. Has to use the mounted archery to get away from the pull, but that is not all. Rapio has the dive on the Crimson underneath the tier 1.
And it was nearly a 2-for-0 exchange there in the mid lane. Vaporish Keek still trying to play aggressive. They know they just lost their mid laner with Crimson being dead. Rapio just not able to rotate in time, and it's going to be Vaporish falling down. Unfortunate. RivaL aren't able to leave that fight unscathed. And Jumpa and Keegsmate knew at the second that Crimson went down, the all-in has to go forth.
And they're able to catch down Coast. Remember how critical it was that Jumpa earlier on in the game had been able to take down that mounted archery by using the Palau, forced him to use that ultimate to get away and get some kind of CC immunity. That means when they dove him that second time under the tier 1, he was so much more vulnerable. A lot of the safety that Hachiman has relies on that mounted archery, and this time Flashpoint baited out and then go in for the kill.
Still not a significant enough lead for Keeks to really profit all that much off of it. I think once we start seeing a 1.5, 2 level experience gap develop between the Hunters, that might be when RivaL decide to pay a little bit more attention towards duo. But for right now, I actually really like that move from RivaL because they understood with Jumpa ganking the duo lane and looking to dive Vaporish in the T2 with the Palau, they had more than enough time to fully commit onto Crimson.
Predators takes a bit of poke over here on the solo side, but in the end he should be okay, and everyone's able to fall right back. We saw that blue buff invade last time. I wonder if RivaL want to try and be there for it one more time, now that they should have the timer and a good idea of when that's going to come back up. Rapio is on this side of the map, and Jumpa is not. This could be an advantage for them to try and strip away this blue buff from the side of Flashpoint.
Rapio, though, hugging this wall corner. He wants to pay a little heads up to Delaney, let him know that he's still hanging around in the neighborhood. But Rapio going straight for this blue buff, and Delaney already knows what's going to happen next. Devour minion, and that blue buff is all Predators.
Absolutely goes in favor of RivaL, and unfortunately Flashpoint weren't able to get anything in that time period. If Rapio is going to sit around there for a little while, and he did, he came to help out with their own blue, then went up to the blue on the Chaos side, then Flashpoint has that opportunity where the jungle is missing off the map, and maybe they can move forward and get something done, but unfortunately they can't. That's just a win for RivaL.
Nice job there from Matt Kois to ensure that Rapio doesn't get away with stealing all of those back harpies. Believe it was the big one that Kois actually managed to confirm with the knockup, so that's going to be fairly useful because it keeps the timer in control for Jumpa. Jumpa now will probably be able to respond a little bit better there to prevent Rapio from continuing to build up a free lead, essentially.
Coach just going to return back to lane. Does have those boots finished now. It's the Ninja Tabi from him as well. But on the other side, Keeks has the Transcendence done and will have plenty of power at his disposal. But looks like the two won't be butting heads just yet. We saw Flashpoint considering that early Gold Fury. Was that just maybe to try and catch RivaL off guard, or is this team really that good at bursting objectives? We might have to talk about that later, though, as Jumpa could be in some trouble.
But it's Rapio who's actually choosing to drop the Regurgitate pretty early on as well. Bede's going to get forced out also because the Palau manages to connect from Jumpa, but other than that, doesn't seem as though either side is really willing to continue the engagement. Ult for ult exchanges, but they did manage to also pull out the Lightning Storm from Crimson and the Cataclysm from Kois.
Yeah, Crimson dropped the Lightning Storm right on top of the Palau, trusting the pull would come through, but I think Rapio still had the Purification Beads. You can see those are on cooldown, so he still had that to get away from the chains on the back end. So quite a few ultimates committed from Flashpoint, but in the end, it should probably be okay. I mean, RivaL hasn't really shown any indication they want to try and force fights.
But this all goes back to what you just asked me, Finch, about that Gold Fury. It's because of that Zeus Juice, the reason why Flashpoint might feel a little bit more comfortable looking for those early objectives. Anytime a Lightning Storm is dropped, in comparison to RivaL, I think Fly does have some very solid objective secure or steal confirmation, but it isn't necessarily safe to try and actually stack those corpses up for that explosion, because if you get a little bit too close as Outwash, what's going to stop Jumpa or Crimson from just collapsing right on top of you?
Saw yet another invade if we took a look at the, or over on the solo side of the map rather, where Rapio showed some presence over there. He was able to help strip that one away. It's been continued aggression from RivaL, at least on this blue buff. But up to this point, it hasn't net them very much in terms of gold and experience. In fact, it's Delny who's still who's actually a little bit behind Predators, or at least some experience there, but not a ton. I mean, look at the charts. It is favoring RivaL about 18, 1900, but the gold is dead even. No big substantial gains have been made by either side.
But Delany came into this matchup, I think, expecting to lose this blue buff off cooldown because he picked up that Guardian's Blessing. And I know that Guardian's Blessing has been a staple item for a lot of these solo laners, particularly when you take the actual Guardian into the solo lane. It's just that he's not losing out on nearly as much as what he could have been had he opted for a different starter.
Goodness, Jumpa end up catching some damage there from Predators when they met earlier in the jungle. Now it's Predators trying to run away from Delny, who has no lockdown for him, so Predators will make it back to lane A-OK. Not going to see too much more from them just yet, but a relatively slow-paced game from both these teams. And based on what we saw yesterday, I'm not too surprised. Even though Astral was very far out in front in their entirety of their set yesterday, it was still very methodical from them, very slow-paced. These console teams recognize how much is on the line, and they're not going to jump the gun or let a game get away from them, as Delny can't complete the dive underneath the tier 1.
But even with all these blue buff steals, Predators, he might have the level lead, but it doesn't really seem he has much of anything else in this solo lane matchup. This is not the first time that we've seen Predators be significantly more poked out than Delany, and despite having no real mana sustain, Delany has just been relentlessly charging at Predators.
And I think he's been right to do that so far. Remember, Predators has been very cavalier in the jungle and has given up some health kind of as a tax for all that extra time he spent getting poked out by Jumpa, by Delny, whoever's nearby when they see him. So a lot of that is Delny. Some of it is just Predators playing typically aggressive Predators. We'll end up seeing who ends up punishing him truly in that dual lane matchup or not.
Also, it doesn't look like Rapio's all that interested in that Hasten Katana Atalantis bow Bakasura that we've been running for, or we've been seeing so many of the pros choose to go for. Hasten instead into the Executioner. A lot of attack speed already online, especially with that Ninja Tabi pickup, and Butcher Blades sure to shred through just about anything at this stage. The only concern, though, is that how long can these minions from Bakasura truly survive inside that Regurgitate when there's a Zeus on the board?
You know a pretty good 2300 power attack speed item? Executioner.
Executioner?
It's pretty good.
2350?
2350. I say pick it up all the time. I like it. I have no problems with this from Rapio here at all. This is absolutely the play, and it should definitely give him some opportunities to start shredding through some of these tankier targets. Now, the question is, when will we see Rapio hit that go button? When will he hit the gas pedal? He had to react in the middle lane earlier when Jumpa went up onto the powwow. But aside from that, he's been relatively slow throughout this game.
All Rapio really wants to do is just make sure Keeks doesn't get to play this game. Chiron, by far, one of the least favorable matchups against the Bakasura. He has no real time to enjoy this. And Rapio already, as soon as he finishes off that Executioner, he's already trying to look for these ganks onto Keegsmate.
Lurking, literally in the jungle, a nightmare if anyone were to walk in too far and immediately get bursted down by the Baka. But for now, everyone playing this relatively patiently and staying back, so shouldn't have to worry about any more blood being spilled, at least at his hands. There's a bit of a grouping in the middle lane, though, 3 there. But no, it's actually Jumpa showing up in duo and might be looking for Coast.
That's a really well-placed ward by Matt Koiz, by the way. Just right there in the center of that jungle corridor for the duo lane. Just to further make sure that Keegs is as safe as possible from the Bakasura trying to loop up from underneath. If Rapio wants to find a successful gank onto Keegsmate, it's going to come at a price.
I know there's a lot of big Flashpoint, or rather RivaL fans out there, but I don't want you all to think that this one is a foregone conclusion and Flashpoint are outclassed or anything like that. This team has been the only one really going toe-to-toe with Astral in North America, the only ones that it feels like they're able to regularly give them a run for their money. So now with Flashpoint going up against the other top team on Xbox right now in terms of Team RivaL, I'm not surprised they've been able to hold their own against them so far. This game's still virtually deadlocked almost 17 minutes in.
And you have to keep in mind, RivaL have also been getting a lot better practice over in Europe as opposed to former or previous years, because they've taken what they've learned from playing against these North American teams so often by qualifying for these LANs that they started actually sharing some of that with the other European teams in Xbox. And I think that it's awesome to see how healthy a scene can be and how much it can grow and develop whenever you have leadership from members such as RivaL.
Well, Blink in, Cataclysm to get things started, and Rapio quite quick on the beads, able to make it out of there without any trouble. That is the Blink and the Cataclysm down for Koiz, but beads from Rapio might be a better bounty. but only if they're able to punish him inside that window. Remember, he does have some CC immunity on the ult at the very beginning, so he might not be that vulnerable.
Still, Finch, we're approaching the 18-minute mark pretty soon here, and neither side has really felt all that confident about trying to confirm a Gold Fury. Not even a Pyromancer attempt so far from either of these teams, but I think Flashpoint might have just heard me because right away they're already starting to pull into this, and it's down to 70% now already.
And the Zeus ultimate committed already. They want to burn the objective, and they absolutely will. Flashpoint take down the Gold Fury without any trouble. RivaL never even make it anywhere nearby. And finally, a small win for Flashpoint to push them out a bit in front.
Can't ever take anything for granted on the map. RivaL, they haven't been paying a whole lot of mind towards keeping vision on this Gold Fury, but I think they're about to start, Finch, because they cannot afford to let another one of those Gold Furies go for free.
It is nice, though, that Predators is able to find them a Tier 1 tower in response. Here's Delny was not anywhere nearby, so he just had plenty of pressure. Jumpa diving underneath the Tier 2. The Mountain Archery flick back was great from Coast, but Pyromancer also was under siege last time we saw it in RivaL. Indeed will be able to grab that, and Coast lives with the gank on the left-hand side. A nice play from RivaL.
A little bit surprising to see how heavily invested Jumpa was for trying to poke at Big Porish. Does succeed in finding the Mounted Archery, but at the expense of nearly dying. Everybody from RivaL knows that Jumpa is sure to have back by now. Fortunately, because Flashpoint took that Gold Fury just a couple of minutes ago, there won't be any real punish from RivaL. No buffs available, no chances for them to invade. So it's a pretty safe dive.
They didn't have to give up too much as Delny and Predators continue to box. We don't see our solo laners fight like this much anymore because there's so little kill potential usually, especially when it's double Guardians or Mage Guardian. But Predators, man, on this Wukong and Delny on the RDO have been absolutely willing to throw down on the right-hand side of the map.
Delny's build a little bit more deceiving, though, in terms of tankiness to damage ratios, because the damage is definitely there on the RDO. The fact that she's a stance switcher already gives her a little bit of an advantage because she's going to be able to hit you with two abilities at the same time as one. But the Void Stone and the Stone of Binding are what I'm really looking towards here, because I think that this is such a healthy blend of damage yet bruiser build that Delny's going to be able to provide a really consistent front line for Flashpoint while also simultaneously dealing damage himself.
He's going to be a nightmare for these backlines, I would say. And Coast and Fly going to make sure they're very much careful and don't allow this RDO to be too big of a problem for them. But the mid lane mages in their own right are slowly becoming even more of a problem. Soul Reaver now online for Fly to add to the problems he was already creating, as well as some big spikes there for Crimson. But we might have some action right now as Koi ends up trying to drop, or rather, Dinosaur drops down the Earth and Fury to try and get this fight started. Koi's stuck inside Lightning Storm, but it should be A-okay. It's going to be Jumpa trying to dive for the Mounted Archery coming out from Coast, goes up onto the Pal for the response, but just not going to be enough. Not going to be able to pull him in, though Aegis is there, so he will get two with the change, but now Jumpa's stuck.
But Jumpa's out of no man's land. Doesn't seem to matter, though, because Delany picks up Baykorish Ghost on the backside, and the Geb Shield could not have been better timed. Jumpa finds Fly, and now it's just a full-on collapse from Flashpoint.
That's four for Flashpoint that comes out in their favor. RivaL reeling after a big surge from Flashpoint, and they're not even going to go for the Gold Fury. It's 21 minutes in, and they're going to start heading right towards the Fire Giant, though Jumpa is backing, so maybe Flashpoint are slowing things down a bit, but there's no Pyro. They have absolutely got to be going for the big boy objective.
And this is the danger of taking these mid-game engagements, because everybody is forced to sit out for 35 seconds or so, and there's more than enough time for Flashpoint to freely look at this Fire Giant. Predator's trying to make his way into the Fire Giant pit. Fire down to 20%. Could be some room here for a steal out of the Cudgel, but it's not going to be this time around. Flashpoint instead going to confirm that Fire Giant, no problem. Up into the air goes Predator's trying to buy himself a little bit of time, but I'm not sure he's going to make it out of this one alive, Finch.
He's definitely in some trouble. Jumpa now following him up with the Trickster Spirit, and that's more than enough. A killing spree for the jungler now for Flashpoint. All of a sudden, the gas has been hit, the NOS has been touched, and Flashpoint are ready to roll. They've got the Fire Giant, and that last big fight has gone in their favor, and finally things can start swinging for this team. And it really only took that one engagement around RivaL, around that Gold Fury, to get things swinging in their favor.
And of course, you can never really count out RiVaL, though, on these Phoenix defenses. They still have the outwash. They still have that mounted archery from Vaporish Coast. There are options for RiVaL. It's just that they might have taken a little bit too long to fully utilize them. I think that they should have been trying to absorb a little bit more of Flashpoint's aggressiveness in the early game and try to abuse it a little bit better, because they just sat back. But speaking of which, Rapio, he's done waiting around. Will get the Aegis from Crimson, but it almost cost him his life.
Yeah, it's Rapio's the one that ended up in some trouble trying to dive onto the Zeus. Immediately dropped the Lightning Storm at his feet. It was just too much damage. No way for Rapio to stick around in that one. And that could be a bit of a problem for him. He's gone with the Executioner into the kin size. Plenty of damage, plenty of chance that he can shoot through these targets, but he's not going to be able to withstand the damage at all.
And the problem is, no one is really available to try and force out these relics consistently from the carries of Flashpoint. It's really only Rapio who's had any opportunities to look at Crimson, to look at Jumbo or Kingsmate, and most of the time it's been unsuccessful, and that all just winds back to the very start of this match where RiVaL seemed like they were beginning to take off with a couple of those invades, but then they kind of just dropped off.
Second Gold Fury now for Flashpoint, and it's time for them to start their siege. Plenty of towers still to be farmed, but the Tier 1 just goes down. There's still the Tier 2 in Duo and in the middle lane, and the Phoenix as well for them to start burning through. But RiVaL don't want to let these Tier 2s go for free. They're at least showing some form of defense to slow down the Fire Giant push, though there's plenty of time and no real reason for Flashpoint to rush.
It's just a heat check from RiVaL. Whether or not they can fend this T2 is irrelevant. All they're really looking to do here is dish out a little bit of poke and kind of remind Flashpoint, hey, these Phoenixes are not going to go down for free. These towers possibly aren't even guaranteed.
And they've got an opwash. They're very good in these defensive situations, as the first one in is Koi, looking for the Cataclysm, and the damage there from Crimson right over the top with the ultimate. But RiVaL surging forward are going to pay for it. Rapio, the first one to fall, and right behind him, Dinosaur Keegs finds that one to fly. At least gets to return the favor by taking out the Chiron.
Unleash the Crypt, just a little bit too powerful for the moment, but speaking of powerful, Crimson's gonna bring down Predators. Beautiful detonate, just too deep for the Sun Wukong, all by his lonesome. Did a great job making sure to keep Crimson away from that fight for a while there. Even forced out the Lightning Storm a little bit preemptively, so this next Phoenix Siege might not be as easily served, but it is only Fly and Vaporish left to play defense.
Flashpoint with 4 members still strong, but they do not have Kingsmate. That's a lot of their damage against these structures. But if they can make it in this aggressively, it might not matter. Aegis forced out from Coast. Early EI Jutsu not going to get him far enough away, and a Rampage now for Jumpa on this Danji. Left side Phoenix should fall easily to the damage from the jungler. And Flashpoint, man, they blew the game wide open with that fight on the left side near the Gold Fury, and they have not looked back since.
And the other problem, too, that's beginning to arise is that Team RiVaL have been in a constant state of staggered respawn timers for the past 4 minutes now. Every single time Flashpoint have made these sieges, it's been into the 4v2s or the 4v1s. There's just never any real opportunity for a true team fight to take place. Even on that left side T2, when Flashpoint were looking to make their siege, Predators was the one out in Narnia trying to aggress Crimson, and yes, he was successful, and you can't really fault him for going for that play, but the problem is, RiVaL don't really seem to have a way to actually follow up upon each other. They're just relying on their single target burst damage, and this Geb pick could not have been any better executed by Kois.
It's almost eliminated any effectiveness Rapio could try and have in this set, and I think that's where the benefit for RiVaL will be that they've got to come to their Phoenixes in siege if they can fall back, and instead of having to try and rely on and engage or make their abilities work together, just kind of force Flashpoint to come into them, then maybe that could make up for it in some ways, especially when you've got the Opwash, empty the crypts to try and pair everything up with. But still, not an easy task for Team RiVaL now that they're down up near 12,000 gold, a substantial amount.
And when it was just the experience alone, a couple of levels too, you can usually make up for that with these tower defenses, but RiVaL right now are just falling so far behind in the itemization that Flashpoint have such a massive advantage when they're looking for the objectives. I don't even think that RiVaL are going to look to contest on this next Fire Giant, because they're all under the understanding if they go anywhere near that pit, they just die with it.
They don't really have a chance to make this fight. So instead, they'll stick around those Phoenixes and try and make sure the left side minions are pushed up. You can see the wave is all the way up at the Tier 1 tower in Duo, which is a good sign for RiVaL. It means that Flashpoint, if they want to have that extra minion pressure, it'll be a little bit longer, or they'll have to go push it themselves. And you can even see Rapio making his way over there to keep it pushed up, so they have to worry about those fire minions for as little as possible.
All the time that they can buy. That's really the only choices that RiVaL have left. I like that T2 defense, though, because Fly was able to dish out quite a lot of damage with that Unleash the Crypt, so picturing that underneath the Phoenix could fare a little bit better there for RiVaL. I think they might have gone a little bit too gung-ho with that T2 defense. Should have played more reserved for the Phoenix defense.
There's definitely a chance they stepped a little bit too far forward there. It got a bit Icarus as they flew too close to the sun, and now they're crashing back down, but can they slow things down and give themselves an opportunity to restabilize? That's kind of the question. As Rapio's elected for this Spirit Robe now in the build, you were just saying he gets burned a little bit too quickly. Perhaps the Spirit Robe can try to help cover that gap a little bit.
Normally, I would be on the same side as you, Finch, but still, I think the main issue that Rapio is going to encounter every single time he looks for one of these carries is the Zeus. Unless somebody can keep Zeus away from the action while also not dying to him at the same time, I don't really think that Rapio is going to be able to have all that much of an impact. He's got to be able to switch his target focus from whoever Matt Koiz decides to shield. But the problem is, Koiz has been so patient with every single one of these Gep shields that he hasn't given Rapio that option.
And who is it that's going to have to back Rapio up on this? It feels like that responsibility must fall down to Predators on the Wukong to find some kind of way into the backline and disrupt Crimson, not allow him to follow up with these ultimates the way that he has been up until now. But we have not been able to see that kind of impact from Predators so far.
It's just what more can the Sun Wukong and a Bakasura do into the composition that Flashpoint have opted for. There's just so much damage spread across every single one of the carries from Flashpoint that Predators and Rapio just get exploded before they have any real opportunity to make an impact on the fight. And Dinosaur's Earth and Fury, yes, some of them have been really well timed, but that doesn't really matter when your carries are dying before you even have a chance to finish off the timing of that ultimate.
Well, Jumpa snuck back around to the middle lane, and he's threatening the mid Phoenix while the left side is only just respawned. It's also quite weakened and shouldn't be too hard. But Flashpoint to tear down, the bird will fall, and the Lightning Storm comes out as well from Crimson, but doesn't find much more than that. RiVaL disperse and Flashpoint fall back. And remember, because Jumpa kept these waves pushed up here in mid and put some damage onto the Phoenix, it shouldn't even be too hard for them to start threatening this one.
Dinosaur wasn't even that far out ahead, and he nearly died from that Zeus ultimate. Crimson's damage is just unreal right now. Top of the player damage charts, followed up only by Delaney, because what more would you possibly expect than the solo lane RDO to be second in player damage on Flashpoint?
I'm not too surprised. He's been bullying Predators quite a bit in lane, but that impact has certainly been felt inside these team fights as well. I get exactly where you're coming from. This Zeus and this RDO have been a real problem, and it's Koiz that's the problem now. Blinks in Cataclysm, finds two, and forces out the ultimate from the Opwash in response. Fly slows things down for a moment, but Flashpoint so patient.
The reset could not have been any better from Flashpoint, and even without the Gep shields, I don't think anybody was in any remote danger of dying there, because normally the game plan from RiVaL would have been unleash the Crypts. As everybody is panicking on the departure, you have Rapio coming around the backside with a flank to regurgitate, and then it's just a pincer maneuver from RiVaL, but they have not been able to execute that. Jumpa, though, tired of playing defense or waiting around. He's going straight into the Powwow. Gonna catch Dinosaur, but won't be able to pull him in just yet.
The Jumpa now relegated to the right-hand side. It's Rapio looking for a little bit more damage, but can't find anyone. Predators goes right up into the somersault cloud and has to wait out the bad weather to see if he can come back down. He wants Jumpa on the right-hand side and barely makes it back out. No, he does not. The Trickster Spirit hunts him down. The jungler makes him pay.
Masterful shot and almost brings down Dinosaur one more time, but this Terra just keeps making it back into the base, limping as he may. He's still standing, and 45 seconds until Predators is back into the action, but still, Flashpoint not feeling very comfortable pushing in any further. That Fire Giant has worn off for now, so RiVaL will have a chance to breathe, but it's two Phoenixes instead of just one.
A very strong push from Flashpoint that we've seen here so far. It really only took that one fight for them to open this game up, and ever since they've had the advantage, they've played it so well, baiting in RiVaL on the tier 2 on the left-hand side, and then opening up the Phoenix, baiting them around the left side Phoenix, so they can come in onto the middle as well. They've played so well between Jump on the Dodgy and around Crimson on this Zeus.
And I think this all just comes back to Koiz on the Geb. It's not that Geb is, you know, the most fun god to watch, but seeing Koiz be so perfect in his execution with these cleanses and with these shields is just a nightmare for RiVaL to try and deal with. Vaporage, I don't think, has even had a single opportunity to try and attack anybody because he's just been trapped inside of his own backline.
You're right, Koiz's impact here can't be overstated as well. He's the one that's been primarily initiating for the team with the Blink Cataclysms, finding two and forcing disarray into Rival. This last situation was a bit of an anomaly, where it was actually Jumpa who went in first on the dodgy. Up until now, they've been relying a lot on Matt Koiz, and he's answered the call in every metric that you can think of so far. It's been a very clean game from Flashpoint.
This Rival composition just feels a little bit too Bakasura dependent here, and without Rapio being able to actually go ham in the back line with the Butcher Blades Regurgitate combination, there's just not enough damage to be had that will deal any sort of retreat for Flashpoint.
What they've done is essentially make this op wash irrelevant. I feel like that's really been the selling point so far, is that Fly, the real big damage bank for them, hasn't been able to hit home with any of these ults. They bait it out, force it defensively, then re-engage when he no longer has it, and the right side Phoenix is the one being threatened as Rapio wants to fight with Jumpa, but will find no more there.
Flashpoint, though, 5-man grouping on this right-hand side. They're ready to bring down this final Firebird from Rival, and of course, Predators already poked out to half HP. He's gonna have to transformation back into the Fountain, and of course, that only leaves 3 members from Rival still stuck here playing defense. And more than enough time on Flashpoint with this newly picked up Fire Giant.
Now that is unfortunate. Cataclysm from Matt Koiz doesn't find much. Earth and Fury in response from Dinosaur should force back Flashpoint, but they got what they wanted. Empty the Crypts has been used, but now it's Rapio going in, and he's trying to through Koiz, and it's just enough. Koiz comes in to finish him off. Up to the Powwow is going to be Jumpa. He responds, but Fly finds Kage's mate as well. Koiz gets the double by taking down Delny. Rival have successfully defended the base.
Signs of life from Rival, and at a moment that you would least expect it, but it's not over just yet. Jumpa gonna have to run away though at the very last second. Too much of a withhold there from Vaporish, but that did cost him his Aegis in the end, so he still has the Purification Beads. Actually, 2 members from Rival still managing to hold on to their Purification Beads. Fly, surprisingly enough, not forced out of either of his relics.
That's very fortunate that he was able to stay safe in the backline, but I think that you could credit almost the entirety of that to just the misplay from Koiz, where he unfortunately wasn't able to find the Blink Cataclysm that he wanted. Because that ultimate was expended, that's what's been used so often to force out the initial relic from the backline arrival, and it wasn't there. Now a bit of breathing room for the Order side, for the Europeans to try and make sure they get everything situated and can get these Phoenixes back online, push out these waves, and be ready for Flashpoint's next push.
I think that might have also been the first time we got a chance to actually see Rapio use that ultimate. I mean, this Bakasura has been sitting around idle for so long now that you were starting to wonder whether or not he'd ever get a chance to attack anybody on Flashpoint ever again, but that Regurgitate definitely still putting in work whenever he's actually able to just keep moving into Flashpoint.
He was able to find some good damage, but still a great response from Flashpoint in a situation where most things had gone wrong for them. I think you saw Rival staring down the barrel of their lead in that last engage as across the 35-minute mark. In fact, might have stepped a little bit too far forward here from Rival. They now are falling back, trying to clear up these waves. They've got their mid-Phoenix back and standing tall, but for how long? Flashpoint have regrouped and are ready to threaten yet again.
Another wave of fire minions as well to help out Flashpoint on this mid-Phoenix re-siege, and just like the first time, it's going to go down pretty easily, and that's not the end of it either. Flashpoint Cataclysm off the mark, though. Blink at the center of nobody, but look at how low this Titan is.
Immediately, Fly drops the ult, but it might be too little, too late. Flashpoint barrel into the Titan room, take it down, and claim game 1. Already Rival a bit on the ropes.
And there's just not really much more to that. I mean, a little bit anticlimactic on the game 1 close there from Flashpoint, but that Titan just took so much damage while Rival were focused on trying to bring down Flashpoint on the right-hand side. And that's part of the sacrifices you have to make as a team. It's a spur-of-the-moment decision. I think that Rival really had no other option than to look for the clean Dia side. Because they weren't able to find it, they lose their left-hand Phoenix to the Fire Minions. Those Fire Minions then begin to stack up one more time and just take too much of a chunk out of that Titan.
And I think the question now for Rival becomes, are you okay with a game decided by essentially one fight? Which is what they signed up for here by waiting until the 23-minute mark for there to be any real engagements. Next time, they might want to consider if they want to try and have some earlier fights, but perhaps the desk has some ideas about what they could do better. Let's get it back over to our analysts on the desk.
Thank you so much, Finch and Taco Inbound and Anatoly joining me once again here on the Alienware Analyst Desk. In that game, it seemed pretty confident for Rival.
They definitely played confident, but I think Astral Authority were just one step ahead at the end of the day. The Zeus pick was a little bit too much.
Yeah, that Zeus was definitely the problem for Rival, and if they want to win that second game, Crim cannot get that Zeus again. They could not get into the back line with that Geb shield onto the Zeus. He was just free casting the entire time, and he did way too much damage.
And also, it was Rival picking the Bakasura, and that's a god that needs to get close to certain gods, and you don't want to get close to a Zeus.
So was there a main turning point there that really shifted the game in Rival's favor, or was it always just a slow climb?
It was always a slow climb because at the 18-minute mark, it was what, 2 kills to 1 kill,
Yeah,
tied
the
for
20-minute
gold.
mark, 2-1.
Yeah, and then like later on in the game, I think that's when Flashpoint really turned it up. Jumpa started making a lot of plays.
It was at that like 23-minute fight by Rival's red buff that Frank got out 1 hit after the Geb shield blink from Koi's, which is a really nice play. And then the RDO also healed him, and they got 4 kills, and they ended up getting Fire Giant off of it. That was the first big play of the game.
And speaking of Delny on the RDO there, Predators couldn't really do much against him specifically. When we saw was a Deathwalker, he was up against a more passive kind of Guardian in that solo lane, but a Sun Wukong versus the RDO doesn't really favor the Sun Wukong.
No, and he didn't really look to rotate out of lane very much that game. He just kind of sat in lane and took the beating from the RDO. Unlike last lane when Delny was definitely getting beat on by Preds definitely took a more passive approach and was getting beat on and just kind of took the brunt of the damage and didn't really do anything in the late game team fights.
Jumpa was definitely in the presence of the backline between the Blink, between the Trickster Spirit, and I think that it was also a lot of Koi's enabling that, because when you got a Geb shield after going in like that, that just gives you more confidence to go for it.
We even saw that in the early game, Jumpa going in, blinking in, 1v4ing essentially, but his team always had his back. When he jumped in, they were right behind him.
Yeah, that was just a really good team play by FP. They followed Jumpa up when it was only Preds in the backline on the Wukong. He's not going to be killing anyone in that mid game. He's going to get killed by that Zeus. So he was just by himself, not really doing too much, while Jumpa was essentially doing the 1v4.
But Flashpoint kind of had a weird start. That Gold Fury at the 5-minute mark, what was going on? They didn't really seem to be doing anything. They were just wasting farm. What was their plan there?
I'm not really sure, honestly, because like you do have Zeus detonate, but it's not that much damage in that early phase.
Yeah, they went there at like 450 and just sat for about 10-15 seconds. They did end up getting the Oracles, but I still can't imagine there isn't more farm on the map that 4 of them need to be splitting Oracles. But there wasn't really much going on, I guess, so maybe they just wanted to confirm make sure that they couldn't go, or so Rival couldn't do the early gold. Rapio was kind of sitting on that map. He got the first blood in duo, so maybe just avoid that.
Speaking of Rapio on the Bakasura, I think he needs to play a more aggressive god from the beginning of the game, not to allow Flashpoint to get to that team fighting presence that they had. I think Geb and Zeus was too much of a team fighting presence that they got into a comfortable position. He needs to start rotating, I believe, towards that solo lane, because the matchup there, Delny versus Predators, did not favor the Sun Wukong, and it's been a consistent performance out of Predators, actually, during the spring and the summer. That matchup you were talking about behind the scene here inbound, how Hercules was a very favored pick for Predators. Do we expect that change in game number 2?
I'd almost like to see it, because he plays that Hercules like you're supposed to play the Wukong. He goes into the jungle, looks to steal buffs, clears in between the T1 and the T2, and then rotate to mid. And he just kind of farmed with the Wukong, so maybe either change the playstyle with the Wukong or pick the Hercules. You know,
Speaking of the Wukong, you were a little bit interested in the Sun Wukong build. Can you tell me a little bit about your confusion with that?
He just didn't go the Soul Eater, and he was boxing the RDO, so he's not going to win the box because she has sustain. She's going to do a little bit more damage as she is the stand switcher. And then he built the Anchile early, so he's not going to be doing too much, and he's not that tanky. I just didn't get it. I like the Soul Eater.
I like the Soul Eater too. Anchile makes a little bit of sense because you're going to disrupt that channeling beam, so you're not going to affect the root, but you're totally correct. When you're dealing with any god that has sustain, let alone RDO, if you don't have the Soul Eater, you're not going to win those exchanges in between waves. Your priority at that point should be just to clear the wave, make the impact in the team fight, or make the impact in terms of proxying, invading blue buff, invading back camps.
Well, looks like we are ready for picks and bans of game number 2 here. We could possibly see Rival go 2-0, just like their PC sister team who went 3-0. It's anyone's game, though. It didn't look like Flashpoint had a severe deficit. It really until the late game, though. But we got to talk about Jumpa. Jumpa 6-0. However, inbound, you said that Zeus was more of a problem than Dodgy.
Yeah, the Zeus was definitely just unable to get backline very well at all. So Zeus basically was able to free cast the entire time, and then the Dodgy was able to just backline with it.
I want to apologize for my confusion there. Flashpoint actually took that game.
Yeah.
They're not Rival. But hopefully Rival now can get the 2-0 sweep.
If they want to follow suit, because during the springtime, the Rival PC team and the Rival console team both had those championships under their belt. And it was funny is in the summertime, both of them made it to the finals and made it to second place. Energy won it in the summer for PC, and Astral Authority took it for the console.
Same bans, it looks like, from the first game. The Odin Freya for RivaL, and then maybe the Erlang from FP again?
If it's going to be a repeat, it has to be the Erlang Shen. It has a lot of control that you don't want to deal with, so second pick team normally strips that one away, unless Odin is available, so that way you would kind of allow that to go through. But Flashpoint pulling a fast one with a get ban.
I mean, Geb was the playmaker there, right? Like Zeus, we know that did a lot of the damage and everything, but Geb allowed him to do that.
And knowing RivaL, I think Dinosaur could have potentially first picked that.
Yeah, Geb does have a lot of priority on console because Dean, Dinosaur runs a lot of Geb. He ran it against us in the Summerland, he ran it against us in the Springland, and FP did first pick it on the second side, so Geb has a lot of priority on console.
And we saw what it was able to do protecting the mid laner there. Crimson was in a very comfortable position on that Zeus, and if you're switching the style like this, allowing the Erlang Shen to go through, you know Flashpoint did their homework for this game.
Do you expect the Erlang to go into solo or jungle?
Honestly, considering if it's RivaL that's going to pick it up, I would expect it to go for Predators. Predators wants to be aggressive. It's a good change of pace away from Sun Wukong, which is an ability-based kind of god. You're going for more a basic attack kind of god in the form of Erlang Shen.
Well, what about building in towards the early game there? Because there was no action going on. 20 minutes in, 2-1, or does that just seem to be what console enjoys to do? They enjoy playing more towards the mid and late.
These teams specifically usually like to play more for the late game. Astral will occasionally play for the early game to look to snowball off of it, while these two just kind of farm.
You got to play towards your strengths and weaknesses, and I think the compositions for both teams kind of favored it to just farm in the beginning and chill.
All right, Erlang Shen coming out there, not much of a surprise, and a flex pick, so we don't really know how this comp is going to be fitting out. But Flashpoint now here for the response.
Pele's open. That could be an option as well. Flashpoint don't really care though, considering Jumpa is very good on the dodgy as well as he clearly demonstrated in that first game.
I do like the Zeus again also, potential Zeus pick for Krim again. He picked it third last time, maybe it's a little too early for the Zeus. And the RTO is also a very good pick, maybe they play the RTO.
Who's the shot caller on FP here?
It's a mix, it's Frank, Jumpa and Koiz. Koiz is more of an objective caller, while Frank will more call targets, and with Delny in the backline, then we'll call targets for each other.
And normally it's going to be your support / jungler for both sides of the coin. I think rivals, Rapio and Dinosaur are going to be looking to make the calls out of the European side. But I like the RDO pick. The Pele is going to have a lot of mobility. I like the fact that Flashpoint are not running back to dodgy right off the bat.
So how should RivaL respond now?
Don't pick up the Sun Wukong against the RDO yet again. I think Predators needs to stick to this Erlang Shen. Rapio needs to play a non-Bakasura kind of god compared to game one. Needs to make more kind of ability-based plays as opposed to the basic attacks.
And I did like the Opwash last game from Fly, so I'd expect them to pick it again, and I'd want them to pick it again. It provides a lot of anti-heal for that Pele and for the RTO in its ult, so it's a very good pick into these two.
Especially when you know Pele's going to dive you, right? So you can still go Outwash or even the Zeus for yourself.
Will be ours.
Yeah, and Uller pick probably to coast, 90% chance it's going to coast because Fly's not going to be playing any hunters in mid. Maybe a little more priority into the dual lane this game for RivaL.
Oh, rounding it out with Raijin.
That makes more sense now that Uller definitely going to go to coast. No surprise, Raijin. It's a common pick now, at least in the HRX final world stage, whether it's PC or also on the console. But more importantly, with the Uller aggressive pick now for Vaporish Coast, I think Dinosaur has to play something aggressive as well. But normally you pair up the Uller with the RDO, so he's going to need to go for a different avenue.
Is it possible that I think that FP is going to be picking Zeus again and they want the Raijin to go into the Zeus?
Nope.
Just kidding. Agni's being picked in response there. How does this lane matchup work, Raijin versus Agni?
Once the Taiko drums comes out, expect all the bombs in that general direction. It's easy escape for both of them. Agni has a dash, but Raijin can Thunder Crash through the walls. Expecting the Pele out of Flashpoint, Jumpa is just literally going to be sticking to Fly during every engagement.
Atera and Ares being banned out for Flashpoint, and then on the opposite side, we got Chiron and Medusa being banned out, so respective of the support and then the ADC respectively.
But Hachiman is still available. I think that Flashpoint could potentially lean on that pick. Knowing Keeks, mate, though, what are you thinking about inbound?
Keeks may run back that Chiron. Never mind, it's been banned. Medusa is also another pick that Keegs likes to run, but I think Hu Yi is what he's going to be looking for right now. Hu Yi has a really good matchup into the Erlang with the slow off of Erlang, and Erlang can't get out of it. And then it's a pretty safe to get over walls, and it's a good pick for Keegs. It allows zoning also, and he does like it a lot.
But looking even beyond the comps here, what are these teams going to have to do? What is RiVaL going to have to do to not have such a... I don't want to say it was a snowballing game, but they definitely just seem to slowly lose and not really have anything in their advantage.
Control the objectives. Make sure that you're not losing your buffs repeatedly, and I think Uller is going to allow them to have that dual lane pressure that they need. If the Erlang Shen's going to soul lane, your soul lane is also going to have that, so you can easily collapse in the mid lane.
I love Kumbhakarna, right? Sleepy Time Kumbhakarna, I think, is the best skin in Smite. But Kumbhakarna, with this matchup here, it's obviously about control. That's what he provides to the team. But what else can he give to Artio, Pele, and Agni?
It's about the damage burst potential. All you need the Kumbhakarna to do is go into the backline, Mez, epic uppercut, and then peel in your backline.
And he's definitely just going to be sitting there peeling and setting up for the Agni, while the Agni is just going to be allowed to free cast again. Koiz does love these just super supportive peel-heavy gods. Like the Geb, Kumbha's a real peel-heavy god.
In response, though, Athena, maybe once that Kumbhakarna does blink in, try and get some control, Athena can taunt away and maybe save her team.
It's true, but also Athena has a rough matchup because once you dash in, obviously you're looking for a taunt, and it's so easy to get off the Kumbhakarna mess to disrupt that.
I love this draft from RiVaL because this is their land picks. They play for solo lane, they have the Athena to ult over into solo lane, or they can play it the other way, play for duo and have the Athena go to solo. And they're just going to play full aggressive and look for invades.
I thought Season 5 was kind of taking focus away from the solo lane. Why are they prioritizing it?
Preds, he does this weird thing where he's always on your back camps, and it allows the jungler, Rapio, to get really far ahead of the other jungler because he's basically down a back camp. It happened to us as an Astral at the Spring LAN, and it allowed them to beat us very badly because Lairs was so far behind.
All right, and Flashpoint finishing out their comp with the Xbalanque there.
It makes sense when Kumbhakarna has that much control. Xbalanque is going to have a lot of free opportunities at the branching bolas and the poison darts to build up that passive, get more damage, try to transition very well to the late game to match what Crimson's going to do on this Agni.
So we're expecting a low kill game at the start and then more rotating towards objectives in the mid game.
I'd be surprised if there's a low kill start to this game, knowing that Vaporesh is on the Uller, he's going to be hyper aggressive. I would like to see Cerberus be played onto Dinosaur to enable Vaporesh Coast that opportunity.
I'd love for them to play around the dual lane, just have Pretz farm, just ult over, and then just get Coast that lead. They tried to get it last game, they couldn't exactly get it because Jumpa ended up camping that lane also. But I expect them just to sit on that side of the map and get Coast his lead and allow Coast to carry.
All right, gentlemen, is Flashpoint going to take this 2-0 to face Astral Authority in the grand finals, or is RiVaL going to make a comeback?
I think if Flashpoint gets to the late game, this Agni Xbalanque is going to be too much for RiVaL to handle.
I love the early game from RiVaL, and I expect him to be able to take that early game and then end up taking the game.
All right, gentlemen, it's game number 2. Let's see what our casters feel.
I'm feeling like we've got a very exciting game here on the line. Thank you, Kelly, on the desk. Finch and Taco yet again on the calls. We move into game 2 between RiVaL and Flashpoint. Winner will be finding themselves facing Astral Authority in this best-of-3 match. And really, Flashpoint are knocking on the door already. One more win.
They are right there to being able to have a secondary chance at being the returning world champions, but that's all gonna have to wait until tomorrow. For now, they've gotta make sure that they seal the deal with RiVaL tonight.
They absolutely have to, and let's see if they can do it up against the Pentakid on what is certainly his signature pick. He's very comfortable in the Hachiman as well, has a ton of reps and games on that one, but this Uller really feels like his namesake. He loves to play aggressively in game with it. He rarely misses. He's able to get so much work done. How can Flashpoint slow this down? This
is a complete switch up, though, from RiVaL. So Flashpoint, in terms of slowing things down, I doubt that that's really the direction they're headed towards as much as it is going to be a head-on brawl. I don't think we're going to have to be waiting until 21 minutes before we start to see any real engagements break out, because just looking across the board on both sides, there is so much pressure that can be divided across the map that it's really up to these teams to decide where they want to take the fights first.
And look at this. You can see Predators is lurking in the jungle, doing a little bit of what we saw Splice doing that worked out so well. And I don't know if Flashpoint are recognizing that this is going to happen. Horrific comes out early, but it's Predators who comes in and tips the scales with the Ghastly Breath right away. Proc to Sleepy Time passive, and they can gift this kill right on over to the Pentakid himself. Coast finds a respawn, first blood.
Doesn't get much better than that. Uller with the first blood, as if he wasn't a lane bully enough as is. He's about to get a million times worse here for Keegs. Vaporish goes with another
course he does.
X-Stun land, because why not? And that's going to get the beads out of Keegsmate and an immediate invade onto that purple buff.
Yeah, this is what it's like, by the way. And this is mostly Predators that sets it up by doing a good job coming over to the lane early on and adding some extra damage, then teleporting back. Now already they've given Coast a good start, but there's more fighting between these two junglers, Jumpa and Rapio, but no true 1v1s. Rapio gets the kill, but an immediate answer back from Crimson. He dashes in.
You're never going to get a 1v1, not in competitive play, but still, at least Rapio managed to make it happen. And of course, as you could imagine, plenty of pressure still being applied in this duo lane from RivaL, as Vaporish still trying to get a little bit of an edge here over Keegsmate.
Still trying to find the rhythm, though. That hail of arrows way off the mark, out on the back of that two-man taunt that was able to be found by Dinosaur. There, though, the axe lands, and now it's looking a little bit better from Coast, feeling the rhythm as they put in the hurt. Still level 1 for Koi. It's going to be very difficult for this Kumba to try and step in against the Athena and the Ullr.
You have to keep in mind, Keegsmate's not going to have those bees for another 90 seconds or so. That's a full minute and a half of Athena taunts into the axe stuns and hail of arrows, bladed arrows. It doesn't really matter what follows it up next. Either way, the damage is probably going to be applied. All Vaporish Coast has to do is look for it.
Saw Rapio lurking in the jungles. They recognize they have a bit of an opportunity here to try and take down Keegs, but unable to capitalize, as immediately the Flashpoint dual lane backed up to the tier 1. So Rapio instead will take down these oracles and grab some extra farm for the team. They gotta be careful, the Predator's a bit low on the right-hand side, but able to push back Delny without any trouble.
Delany, though, running back this RDO yet again, and it's not all that surprising to see him on the RDO, because I think he did a great job last time in understanding his role as the solo laner. Normally, we tend to see Delany trying to take a little bit more of an aggressive position. Last game, he was there peeling pretty heavily for his backline and letting Koi's be the initiation factor.
The backstop from Coast. Koi is probably chuckling to himself a little bit as he sends out the minion. But yeah, we'll see if Delny can get that same type of performance we saw from in Game 1. I think so. It is a slightly different matchup than the Sun Wukong Predators. Isn't so much reliant on his damage to contribute in these fights. He'll have the Stygian Torment, the stuns as well, to try and match that presence. As you see, Dinosaur come over to try and strip away the purple, but won't be there in time.
Two separate attempts with that reach, but neither one of them going to be successful. You have to appreciate the attempts, though, because Dinosaur knows as soon as Flashpoint get control again of their purple buff, it's going to be even more difficult trying to reassert their dominance in that dual lane. Because if Vaporish Coast chooses to try and extend up there with Dinosaur, there's a very heavy likelihood that Jumpa just waits and looks for an early gank potential.
Jumpa is on this Pele, so it'll be very interesting to see what it is that he wants to do as soon as he has his ultimate online. Pele traditionally able to get off to very quick starts, farm to the jungle so quickly, does so much damage right away, does not need a ton of items online to start swinging. So Jumpa in a good position to try and turn things around for Flashpoint and get them to that all-important second win and move on to the finals. But so far, he's had to play it a little bit slow because there's been so much action here in duo.
Vaporish Coast, though, one more time, getting these red buffs off respawn, and that's the way you like to see it. He's already got the first blood underneath his belt. May as well allow him to continue trying to add on to it, but Rapio and Jumpa seems like they're going to spot each other out in the jungle, so no gank opportunities just yet for either side.
You can see both of these junglers coming over, but as you said, unable to really find their actual opportunity to gank. For a moment, they're going to try and catch Coast stepping up a little bit too far and look for the punish, but unable to find it there. So they fall back. It'll be a little bit longer before we see those jungler ultimate sparks actually flying. Though we did see them take an early engagement in the jungle. That one went slightly in favor initially of RivaL, but answered back by Flashpoint. We'll see if they want to look for more of that action again.
And you have to appreciate that rotation out of Crimson also, because had he not bothered to go into the jungle there, that would have just been a 1-for-0 exchange, and Rapio would have been able to pull pretty far ahead of Jumpa most likely, because Erling Shen being left alone in the jungle, left to farm out all those back harpies, the possible respawning speed buff would have been a little bit too much even for this Pele to handle.
Oracle's about to respawn, and Coast will be right here for them the second they drop back into the map yet again, and he'll grab them. But has this been enough aggression from you early on? Do you need to see a little bit more from this Team RivaL team? I mean, yes, they've done a good job trying to fight around this duo lane, but it's got to look like more. What do you want that to be?
A little bit more from Rapio, if anybody.
Oh, Stygian Torment. We might see a little bit more from Rapio as they pull Delny right back in. Defender of Olympus is there as well, and an easy kill. Taco. This time Caster's Curse in the other direction. Nice call.
Yeah, the RivaL can still PayPal me later. Astral Authority still owe me from yesterday.
That's right, yeah. I haven't heard anything from them on that one. But this time a good call, recognizing Rapio needed more, but a big answer back as Jumpa goes aggressive. The stun landing over the wall from Crimson was key, and Jumpa's able to get the kill.
It's part of the risk. You send everybody over to the right-hand side to bring down Delaney. Well, you're bound to leave some other parts of the map exposed, and this time around it's going to be Fly, but a nice double taunt from Dinosaur in the mid lane. Follow-up from Rapio might have been there, but the second that McCoy shows his face, Rapio is no longer interested in the engagement and going to choose to mink farm out of there and instead head for his own back card piece.
Yeah, that one was close, walking into the 2v3. They might not have realized, as you said, that Poise was so nearby, but Predators might now be in trouble. Poise and Jumpa both on their way to this engagement, and there's no ultimate available for Predators either to help them disengage. And with Poise coming through, this should certainly be a clean kill. The Doggo doing everything he can to dodge, but now the dive coming through. Just need a little bit of duck, and they'll have all 3 Ds. A nice play from Flashpoint in solo lane.
And this is where things start to become problematic for Team RivaL. It was one thing when it was a 1-for-1 exchange on 2 separate segments of the map because it's a solo laner for a mid laner, and sure, it sucks to lose Fly, but at least you got Delaney in return. But for Delaney to not only come back to the lane, but then immediately bring down or help bring down Predators, that is where the issue arises, because Predators needed to continue trying to develop his own snowball in that lane if he wants to be truly impactful on this Cerberus, and he probably should have been expecting a counter initiation at some point.
That's classic Predators to me, though. Just very far forward in the jungle, ends up running into the enemy and has to run away from him. I mean, no big surprise there, so that's just kind of how he plays. Sometimes it works out for him, he ends up building a big lead, and sometimes he ends up giving a kill or 2 away. Predators, I was going to say Predators might rein it in, but I doubt it. I've never seen Predators do that.
Can't really say I'm right there with you, Finch. I'll be on your side for this time. But getting back over to this dual lane focus, there really hasn't been that much action in dual lane. We saw a nice first blood from the rotation out of Predators early on, but other than that, I don't think that RivaL has really been all that successful in abusing any further leads here.
They really haven't found much more since we saw those initial gank attempts, and perhaps that's due to Rapio not really showing much attention over here, but maybe we'll have some action after all. Dash taunt coming out from Dinosaur, doesn't find much more than that. Stun actually lands onto 2, and this could spell some problems. Now Jumpa's joined the picture, and Crimson able to take out Rapio early on, and now the Volcanic Lightning sends ripping through the fight. Dinosaur falls in the back end too, thanks to Keegs, and another big fight for Flashpoint, 2-for-0.
It's just a wrecking ball of destruction from Flashpoint. The second that Pele jumped into the fray, it was just too much damage for anybody to handle. Dinosaur and Rapio both falling there, and no one going down for Flashpoint only means that RivaL are probably now beginning to understand just how much damage Flashpoint is really capable of.
And a couple of key things went wrong in that fight. The first and most important one is that 2 people got stunned by Keegs' made ultimate, which is almost unheard of at the competitive level, especially when they were looking on the disengaged. Dinosaur went in for the taunt, and they didn't find it, so they were just going to leave. But 2 people get stunned, that creates plenty of time for Jumpa to catch back up, and he gets a big ultimate off.
The precision from Crimson as well with those Agni bombs. I mean, they're just raining all over the place. It almost felt like there was more than 3 coming out of him, but either way, helping to boost his lead even further still. 2-0-2 now. Participation with 4 out of 5 kills. That's incredible as the mid laner.
And it's been more than just participation. I agree with you on that one, because the stuns have been instrumental. We saw it happen earlier on a kill he set up with Jumpa underneath the tier 1 tower for the dive. That stun is what kept them in range long enough for Jumpa to complete the kill. So far, Crimson's been playing very well.
I'm well known.
And with those 2 kills, you can bet that Crimson's not going to let any of them go to waste. About a 1.5 level lead has been built up now between these 2 mid laners, and Fly, he's not exactly a nobody when it comes to the mid lane brawls.
No.
He has been known in the scene as an up-and-coming mid laner, if not one of the most consistently solid mid laners out there. So for him to look that weak in that engagement, it almost makes you wonder if Flashpoint might actually have a chance of bringing this home 2-0.
It's looking like they certainly have a chance. RivaL came out of the gates with a really good start, but since then, they haven't had a ton of answers. In particular, it's been Jumpa and Crimson, it feels like, on the Pele and the Agni, respectively, that have really been causing the problems for them. Delny, yes, has had some troubles, but things can only get worse once he's able to be even more impactful in these fights. Once we can start to see Keegs get a couple more items online, or RivaL have got to find a way to right the ship.
Five-man group from RivaL, though, looks like they plan on turning things around with this Gold Fury, but everybody from Flashpoint already knows that RivaL's intentions are for this Gold Fury. Darkest Night has come out, communication is all over the place, and it's going to be Jumpa who brings down Dinosaur first.
Once the lights are off, Jumpa goes right to the back line and puts in good damage, but so does Fly with the Tycho drums, but that does not deter Crimson, who's able to find Predators. Volcanic Lightning have been saved this long, not enough to keep Jumpa alive, but he brings everyone low. Crimson dashes in aggressively. It's a double kill from Coast, but he ends up falling too. The only one still standing is Rapio. Overall, 4 for 3 in favor of Flashpoint.
Rapio's got cooldowns he needs to worry about, however.
Okay, good.
Defender of Olympus will come through, but it's just too little too late. That red buff has already been confirmed in the fight a little bit more heavily in Flashpoint's favor.
And yet again, I mean, that's really how all these fights have gone, favoring them. Coast does a good job finding a double kill in that fight to at least keep things close to even and not allow Flashpoint to immediately fall back to the Gold Fury. But every time this ultimate from Keegs comes out, he's gotten dividends, whether it's the stun, whether it's the lack of information. So far, RivaL have not been able to fight through it.
The Kumbhakarna passive, though, you just don't expect it, but I think that RivaL might have lost track of it because for a second there, Fly did try to auto-attack the Kumba to see if he could confirm that kill before Koi's had a chance to revive himself, and I think that that actually cost him some positioning problems because immediately you just see Jumpa look to collapse onto the Raijin, and it was just too much.
Well, taunt onto the Jumpa is going to spell the end of him. Thunder Crash right there for follow-up, and this was much needed reprieve coming out from Team RivaL, giving them a moment to try and breathe, but no, they will not slow down. They want to go right over to the Gold Fury. Matt Koiz is certainly nearby. He has some help coming over in the form of Delny, but they're going to drop it and go for the fight instead. Tycho drums right into the back of the Kumba.
So much damage, but keep an eye out for Keegs, man, because Rapio's been focusing him the whole night. And still, it's going to be Crimson who comes out on top. He's going to bring down Dinosaur right in the heart of the Gold Fury pit. And it's not over just yet. Predators will strike back, taking out Matt Koiz. And of course, you can expect him to keep going because he's going straight onto Crimson.
Wants to try and turn things back around, but Delny left unchecked is able to find Rapio, and he wants to hunt down Coast too. Can't find the damage. Axe turn around, and the Panic makes it happen. Coast somehow stays alive to turn things around. RivaL finally answering back with a big fight, and they want more. Crimson has to use the Aegis Ghastly Breath, not enough, and dash to get away from the jump.
This could be a turnaround though for Jumpa. He's got plenty of damage. Defender of Olympus is going to buy him a little bit of mitigation here, but it's still not enough. Jumpa doesn't have the numbers to take out Predators.
And now he gets taunted back in. Right when he's trying to jump out, paralyzing spit. The damage is way too much. That's enough to shut down Jumpa. And just like that, RivaL have clawed their way back into the match to keep things competitive.
Vaporish Ghost and Dinosaur going to start pulling away at this Gold Fury. There is a ward letting everybody from Flashpoint know just how low this Gold Fury truly is. Fly's here looking for the confirmation, and Koiz and Keegs want to participate as well, but they think better of it and choose to back off. Just too much presence from Flashpoint.
And then a clean disengage as well, as Dinosaur was looking for the taunt, and Coach would have been right there for the follow-up to punish whoever it was. So a good fight from RivaL, but they could not confirm the Gold Fury. That keeps this game essentially dead even at this point. Barely any gold separates them. Very little experience, about 1,000 or so in favor of Flashpoint still. But at this point, I mean, 14 minutes in, you can consider this an even game.
That dip back down and up yet again, though. These teams are so evenly matched. I think it did truly come down to the compositions in the first game, where RivaL's draft was just not as strong as Flashpoint's, and now that things are a little bit more even playing field, Flashpoint and RivaL both having some struggles with taking shots at the other.
Predators might have been a small bit of trouble. Remember, he is the solo laner, though, so he shrugs off the damage. Instead falls back. It's Flashpoint, though, who have all 5 members here. They might want to try and force down this Gold Fury yet again. They'll start with the Oracles, some uncontestable vision to make sure, and it will go the side of Flashpoint. Now they'll know if anything goes down, anything funny around this Gold Fury.
Oracle Vision a little bit more important than Ward Vision as well because it's just free. But things aren't over just yet. Delany could be looking to spot out Predators. Blink over the wall, and Stinch and Torment not going to grab up anybody, but Predators went so deep into that tower, he's just dead.
That's really unfortunate, but a nice axe coming out from Coast to try and line up some return damage. Almost able to find it, but the passive just too good. Rapio gets one. Koiz eventually will end up falling, and now they have a chance for the lockdown on the Delny as well. It's Fly that finishes that one off. Somehow they turn that Predator's dump, where he goes entirely too far, into a 3-for-1.
Keep in mind though, Keegsmate was able to open up the map just a little bit there with that T1 removal in dual lane. He didn't actually rotate, just pop that Darkest Night instead to try and play assistance to Flashpoint. But the Gold Fury is being pulled that here. Nice poison darts onto the backside. Rising Jaguar straight to the heart of everybody, but that's just too much for Keeks to handle, and Dinosaur is going to pick him off.
Jumpa goes in too, but he ends up just trading his life away, and because Coast is still alive, they can come right back to the gold Fury. A good attempt from Keeks, but he might have been a little bit too early, and they will pay for that one handily. Now the gold Fury goes down for RivaL.
I think Keeks probably should have just looked to play a little bit more of a passive defense there. Forcing Flashpoint to temporarily reset the Gold Fury just isn't enough, because by the time they pick it back up again, it's still not healthy enough for Flashpoint to actually be concerned, or excuse me, for RivaL to actually be concerned about leaving that objective. So it's the idea, the intention was good, but the execution a little bit off.
And I'm wondering if the reason that Keeks goes in so aggressively is because Jumpa's coming in, because that part of the plan does succeed. Keeks may pulls everyone's attention, and that does leave Jumpa alone in the 1v1 on the back end. He just does not win the 1v1. I believe it was up against Fly where he was initially looking for him. He finally catches up to him for the kill, but at that point, he and Keeks are both so committed that they end up falling in trade.
These taunts, though, from Dinosaur, they just keep getting better and better every single engagement. The multi-taunts are what we're really looking out for here, because if RivaL are able to have the follow-up with the Percussive Storm into 2 or 3-man taunts, it's so much damage being spread across Flashpoint. Even the Raiju spam has been enough to slow this team down and force them to reconsider their aggressive stances.
This is impressive from RivaL, though. They got punch in the face in game 1, and then game 2 looked like on the back of Jumpa and Crimson things might get out of control, but they found a way to slow things down to get this pace back into an area where they can fight back in. In fact, a little bit out in front in gold, nothing crazy, but about 1,000 or so to their name is way better than being behind. Team RivaL now still have a shot at keeping this set alive.
The real problem for RivaL is that they just don't have as much range damage as Flashpoint. I think that Crimson, with these Agni Bombs, has just been able to spread so far in comparison to everybody from RivaL. All that thought Keeks may under pressure right now from Rapio. Defender of Olympus going to pull him back in with that taunt. But of course, it's Dinosaur now and Rapio both left to retreat.
And they've got to fall back. Jumpa's the one that really turned that around with that big knock-up right in the middle of everything, even though Dinosaur had a good taunt. And Team RivaL have to fall back for the moment, but they're happy just to have survived, though it did cost them some relics, everything that Dinosaur had.
Things could have definitely been a lot worse there for RivaL, and had Flashpoint been a little bit quicker on that collapse. Very unlikely that Dinosaur and Rapio live to see another day, though, if Flashpoint had been a little bit faster there. But still, you can't think about the what-ifs when it comes to competitive play. You've just got to react to what is actually taking place now.
Keep your head looking forward is about the only thing that you can ask for if you're on the side of Team RivaL, as Rapio gets spotted out by Delny, but there will be no more to come of it on that left-hand side. Jumpa's impact, though, can't be overstated, I think I would say, on this Pele. I mean, the knockups, the damage to the Volcanic Lightning, he's been everywhere. I know he's died 5 times, but he's been instrumental in every fight that's gone Flashpoint's way.
Rapio now trying to run away, but he's underneath. He's in the wrong neighborhood entirely. Jumpa's going to get credit for it. Kudos to the tower, but that's just way too deep of an investment from the Erlang onto an Artio of all things.
Yeah, maybe would have gotten the tier 1 tower on the back end of that, but certainly not worth your life in the jungle when you're trying to keep up with a Pele, and now Flashpoint can start pulling the Pyromancer. Predators is nearby, and so is Dinosaur, but I think this one's going down for free.
But that's the problem with unnecessary deaths like Rapio's. You just expose the rest of your team to the enemy being able to just take the Pyromancer for free. No one from RivaL felt comfortable venturing into that Fire Giant pit because they knew at a 4v5 disadvantage, there's no real reason to try and contest this. You just have to cut your losses wherever you can, and Flashpoint are going to be able to take down the T1 tower because of it. They take the Pyromancer for free. Now they get to back to base and come out a little bit quicker thanks to that Pyromancer passive, and who knows, they could very well be looking to just try and siege this next respawn in Golfir, or even the T1 tower in mid lane, because they don't have to worry about the right hand or left hand sides any longer.
An unfortunate gift back over for Flashpoint, but RivaL can still feel good. They're basically even at this point, and they should be able to group up and force down the tier 1 with Coast all the way here on the right-hand side of the map. We are 20 minutes in beyond the laning phase, and he no longer has a tier 1, so no reason why the Uller can't be a little bit more a part of the action now.
But despite how controlling RivaL have felt in the past couple of engagements, Flashpoint are still staying right on their heels. 300 gold, 200 odd gold, that is not a difference between these two teams. Everything is even right now, and this is anybody's game still.
certainly is. Look at all these Mad Guys cloaks, though, coming out from Flashpoint. They want to make sure they are not getting controlled by Team RivaL. And between the taunt from Dinosaur, the Stygian Torment, even the axe from RivaL, there's a lot of control to be worried about. That extra life almost from the bubble, certainly strong.
That team synergy, though.
All
in the same slot.
Yeah. I wonder if they sold to move it because there's that gap in there in Koi's build. I wonder if it was all on purpose.
No, but that's actually Koi's just adjusting to the game at hand. That's what you like to see, or at least that's what I like to see happening with players, because at a competitive level of play, you can't build the same way every single time. All that thought, though, Delaney blinking in on the fly will get the mez off on him. Root still not going to connect, but he will force out the beads and the escape.
Dinosaur the furthest forward, but he will fall back. The rest of Flashpoint, 5 members strong, are going to fall back towards the Gold Fury and start pulling it right away. Keegs pumping in some damage, but this is a bit of a half commit. They want to see if they can force RivaL to overstep, as Dinosaur is the first one that takes both.
Keegsmane does have that Poison Star finish off. Keep that in mind.
No.
Stygian Torment catches nobody and was forced out of Predators defensively, and that is a huge team fighting ultimate that RivaL just had to lose.
Yeah, unfortunate whiff coming out from the solo laner from RivaL, and now the Gold Fury is under siege by Flashpoint. The only one who can really walk in is Dinosaur. Rapio still has his bubble, but that's just been topped by the RDO. Gold Fury leashed, and RivaL, or rather Flashpoint, instead much more interested in the fight.
Delaney, though, and Matt Kois having a little bit of problems, not really willing to go super deep into RivaL's jungle, understanding that with Fly and Vaporish hugging these tight corners, you never really know which direction the damage is going to come at you from. Nice axe taunt, though, to prevent Delaney from keeping that root proccing to actually trap anybody down here. And still, both sides uncomfortable.
Finally, though, the blink in. This time it's from Matt Kois. He can't find much on the back end, but he forces out the ultimate from Fly on the Tycho drums. Keegs drops his as well, so a lot of important tools down for Flashpoint, but they force out Predators using the Poison Darts, and they are able to fall back to the middle lane. But I think Gold Fury might be a thing of the past. RivaL's defense was stalwart enough.
It's actually Flashpoint on the retreat.
Yes.
I think RivaL might have just realized how poked out the members of Flashpoint are. Flashpoint just stuck around this pit for too long, not really doing much of anything.
And then they all disengage as a unit, thinking RivaL would just leave. They got to try and force their way back in. Matt Kois uses the epic uppercut, and that does bring Rapio very low, but Predators has the Stygian Torment back, but it's not enough to get him away from Keegs. RivaL get the Gold Fury, but can they make it out of the fight?
Delaney still trying to give the chase to Vaporish Coast. The jump has already been expended from the Zuler. Beads will come through here. Poison Darts are going to slow him down for a second, but getting into the T2 towers means a complete shift of focus. Dinosaur going to sacrifice his own life to ensure that his hunter lives to see another day.
I'm not sure if this is worth it, though. They give up quite a bit on the back end of the Gold Fury. Predators and Dinosaur. And with the red buff dropping down, Jumpa has elected to pick that up to give himself even more power as the entirety of Flashpoint move towards the Fire Giant with a 5 versus 3 advantage.
Uh-oh, RivaL, you would think that they were out of the fire right away, but it's going to be Flashpoint heading straight for the Fire Giant instead. And RivaL, they might have gotten that Gold Fury, but a Fire Giant is a million times better. Rapio is just exploding from the damage that Flashpoint are able to put out, and Vaporish, understanding that Flashpoint are on this Fire Giant, still looking to play defense, but he's met by Matt Kois and Jumpa.
And he's done enough to force them to leash, and he goes back in looking for damage, actually finds the kill on a Keeg somehow. That's insane. It is enough to slow them down for now, but now Predators is left on an island surrounded by 4, and the Agni Bombs are enough to shred him down. Flashpoint gonna head right back to the FG, but they gotta start from square one, and now RivaL's cavalry is on the way.
Fly is here, and he is fully healthy, but Matt Kois can still look to play defense. Might have that Kumbhakarna passive procced already. Blink is good, but the Tycho drums are even better. That's going to bring down Matt Kois in an instant, but now it's Delaney looking to play aggressive into Fly.
But they can't put in the autos to complete the kill on the Matt Kois. He'll be able to revive without any trouble. Dinosaur now in some trouble. He's been epic uppercut, brought right back down into the Agni Bombs, and the lockdown certainly there. The dash somehow finds its way through, but all the while, Flashpoint can't find a way to do the actual Fire Giant.
But RivaL, they get what they were after all along. This is a forced reset against Flashpoint, and as much as they wanted that Fire Giant, they're just gonna have to sit and wait, just like everybody else in this game, because RivaL are not allowing them to bring it down, no matter how many members might be missing from their team and waiting to respawn. Doesn't matter if there's only 2 people available left to play defense, they are going for it.
So they run themselves into the wood chipper, unfortunately, but they absolutely get what they wanted for, as you alluded to there, Taka, by slowing down the Fire Giant push. Now that should give them a chance to get these respawns all together. The one they're waiting on now is Dinosaur. He might have that ultimate up in time to rejoin the fight right away with Defender of Olympus, but there's no time pressure. Flashpoint aren't even doing the FG. They're settling for the Pyromancer.
The Pyromancer's just the bait. Flashpoint want RiVaL to funnel into this Fire Giant pit so they can look to better collapse on them, because as soon as that Darkest Nights come through, the Agni bombs are just way too much for anybody from RiVaL to handle, and there's just so much better range poke for Flashpoint that RiVaL are really beginning to struggle with figuring out exactly how to approach the backline.
Well, now the tier 1 tower has gone down the middle lane. Flashpoint group up and forced that one down. And they might have a chance to get Dinosaur, who's a bit isolated. No, they want the collapse onto Delny instead, but he's got his friends waiting in the wings. It's Jumpa trying to bide his time, finding a way in for the knockup, but he wants Predators instead of everyone else. And RiVaL very cleanly looked for the disengage and have safely made it out.
Delany is still at 60% health though, and that's not exactly the kind of health you want to see on your solo laner who's got to play defense against the members of RiVaL. Rapio with a good pin, gonna get a little bit more damage spread against Delany, but not enough to really lock him down for any real follow-up. So Flashpoint and RiVaL basically still just staring each other down.
What a prolonged battle this is around the Fire Giant. It might be about to kick off. They drop down. The ultimate from Keegs make it turn out the lights. Dinosaur at half HP, but so is Delny also low. But it's Jumpa and Keegs coming in with the full wraparound onto the backside. They set up Crimson. Keegs is able to find Vapor's Coast, and now stuck in the middle is Dinosaur. A double kill for the mid laner Crimson. They want Predators as well.
Keegs is doing too much damage right now, and there's nobody left to pay mind to him because everybody else from RiVaL is dead. It's just Keegs versus Predators, and Keegs is always going to win it. And now with no one left alive from RiVaL, full on Deicide means a guaranteed Fire Giant for Flashpoint.
What a big play from this team, and that was a perfect response to the bait that RiVaL tried to set up with that ultimate from Shibalanki, with him putting down that blind vision area. There's just no way for RiVaL to fight back in. Flashpoint with a chance now to upset RiVaL. I think very cleanly you could have considered RiVaL the favorites here in this match, but such a strong performance as it looks like they're trying to wait on Delny to somehow come back up. Keegs should be able to buy enough time.
If he doesn't die to the Fire Giant first, he might just have to bring it down himself. And Delany, well, as much as he might have wanted it, he's not gonna get it in the end there. 1 second exactly. But if Keegs had waited out the iterations, he might have just died.
I think he absolutely would have, and you saw Crimson laughing a little bit. A good idea to try and get it for him, but I think it's maybe not worth some of that extra scare on the back end. Either way, Flashpoint are able to grab the objective. They now have about 5,000 or so gold out in their favor too, and that's only going to get worse. They grab Gold Fury and these towers in a moment.
It's the thought that counts, right?
I mean, it was very sweet. They were thinking maybe we can try and help out Delny, but I mean...
It's like he gave him a kiss on the cheek.
Do they really need... I mean, does Delny really need it? It's fine.
I don't think it really needs it.
It ends up working out for them in their favor, and they might have another kill as they look for the lockdown on Dinosaur, who barely makes his way back out. Flashpoint unwilling to continue diving into that narrow jungle corridor, and they will settle for the Gold Fury instead.
See, that's why Delany doesn't get Fire Giant, because he doesn't find the kills.
Right, you let that one get away. Let that be a lesson to you, Delny. Next time you ask me to wait to give you the FG buff, Flashpoint not gonna wait as they move into the dual lane and push up the wave. And now the question becomes, where does RiVaL try and take the fight? Are they okay with giving up these tier 2 towers and waiting on the Phoenix, or can they push out?
The problem is, outside of that last engagement at the Fire Giant where RiVaL were decided, these fights have been very back and forth and normally pretty even on the death exchanges. But now with this Fire Giant buff, I think it's pretty evident that Flashpoint are going to start pulling ahead as the clear victors in some of these initiations. So now it's up to RiVaL to take the initiative as far as counter farming like what Rapio is doing right now. But Jumpa, having spotted him out, sure to give chase, able to pull out the Mad Guy's proc almost immediately, but it's Rapio who's willing to play defense into this until Koiz decides to join the party.
Why is RiVaL's, or rather Flashpoint, so willing to take this fight? I don't understand. Like, why do they care?
Flashpoint are just looking for picks because it'll mean that they can push down this T2 tower in the right-hand side. They've got to take it out anyway.
But let him farm. I don't know. It doesn't seem worth it for them to turn around and go for it. They eventually do find the kill with a little bit of help from Dinosaur, yes, and they are able to push down the right side wave. So if they want to be in right lane either way, I suppose it's fine, but a little bit of time Rapio's able to waste.
You have to assert your dominance.
Yes,
that is
very true.
That is what console is all about. These guys
like
spam taunt each other when they're not even fighting in lane.
That's right. Well, Ko certainly is willing to drop some taunts. I don't know if he's feeling it right now, though. Right now, RiVaL certainly struggling to try and punch their way back up out of this hole they put themselves in. Delny goes in right away to try and keep Coast locked down, who will take his bubble away. but Flashpoint not hard committing yet.
Flashpoint knocking on the door of RiVaL's base, however, and the last time that RiVaL were in this position, it did not look too hot for them in the end. Flashpoint do not want to make it to a Game 3 here. Dinosaur with a nice taunt here onto Delaney, but it's Matt Koiz who has the Phoenix aggro.
And it's Jumpa who wants to go to Coast in the back line. He can't find enough, though. It is enough to keep him away from the fight. In the right side, Phoenix goes down. Flashpoint finally opens up the base of Team RivaL. They have themselves a win condition through that right side pathway, and they strip away a bit of the jungle and start falling back. They got to be careful, though. All of RiVaL are here.
Bombs are going to be able to create enough distance, though. The Dinosaur's follow-up is going to be for naught because Flashpoint are instead looking to counter-collapse. It's going to be Predators who get sent up into the air from the Epic Uppercut, but Raphael gets 2 with that Erlang ultimate.
The Taiko drums was nice in the narrow quarter, but just not enough. Jumpa gets Raphael first, and Matt Koiz is still alive inside the passive fly. Is able to find Crimson, and Coast finally does take down the Kumbhakarna. Flashpoint bite off more than they can chew. A double kill for Coast as they push Flashpoint back.
Coast trying to make it into a triple, but he's got to wait just a little bit longer here.
There
3 kills now for the Pentakill, and he's not going to be able to do it again because Jumpa's already escaped.
A very curious fight that Flashpoint are willing to take there in the jungle. It looks like they were the ones on the full retreat of the back end of that, but they turn back around into RiVaL and fight them in the jungle corridor, and they give up a little too much. They shouldn't have to worry about losing the entire game here. There was still so many towers that RiVaL had to grab, but an unfortunate gift they give back to the team that they had reeling after a strong push.
But Team RiVaL for a second there were looking like they had one step in the grave already.
Yes.
Now they're coming back to life here as Flashpoint's Phoenix will end up falling in the mid lane. Too little too late. Matt Koiz and Crimson have just freshly respawned, but they're just unable to play defense when it matters most.
Now with that mid Phoenix down, both teams have a way to make it to the other team's Titan if another fight was to go their way. The only difference is that RiVaL still have a couple towers they would need to clean up in the duo and solo side. There's only the tier 2 in middle that Flashpoint would have to worry about if they were trying to push in. But Flashpoint have made this game much closer, I feel like, than it really had to be. They had such a big win on that Fire Giant. It starts with the chase under Rapio. Then, when they're on their disengage, they come back in and take that fight in the jungle path, and Fly gets off so much damage.
Also, a little bit of a sucker punch there from RiVaL. I don't think that Flashpoint were anticipating RiVaL to come at them with such a vengeance. It really was just so aggressive for RiVaL to chase them all the way from the speed buff. And to understand that RiVaL had enough time to bring down that mid Phoenix as well, that's just incredible.
Do you know how you don't have to anticipate what they're going to do? If you guys just back, just leave.
Just reset.
Yeah, just go.
But how do I
As they
assert
were
my
initially
dominance if I reset?
That might be a good point, as Flashpoint are able to definitely find the Pyromancer. We'll see if they want to go for the Fire Giant. But it looks like for now they're going to wait. RiVaL has certainly earned a little bit of the respect that Flashpoint are showing them here after these last couple of engagements have not been as clean as the Chaos side would have liked. In fact, it's Dinosaur stepping a little bit forward, feeling confident. Though there is a ward there, Flashpoint certainly have vision.
But Flashpoint, whether or not they want to acknowledge it, RiVaL do have an opening. They cannot afford to lose 3 to 4 members any longer because 33 minutes approaching the 34-minute mark, these death respawn timers are just simply too long. If you lose 3 members at this stage, you're unlikely to play defense.
It's going to be very difficult to defend, but this could be a potential problem now for Dinosaur. They lock him down with the Epic Uppercut. Taiko drums is good to buy him time, but Keegs finds the first kill. Jumpa is right behind him by removing Dinosaur, and they want Coast on the back end. A double now for Flashpoint's juggler. Rapio is able to find some blood, but a triple coming out for Jumpa, and they want to lock down Predators as well.
I don't even think it's worth chasing around Predators. That's going to be up to Delaney to keep him from backing. Instead, Flashpoint hitting straight for this right-hand side. The Phoenix is still exposed. They are going to be able to bring it down. And I'm not certain, but I think this might just be it, Finch. They've got fire minions approaching the base.
They've got a ton of time, 30 seconds before Dinosaur rejoins them, and Predators is being held hostage in the jungle. There's no way he's going to be able to get a successful back off. Taco, I think you might be right. Flashpoint with a chance to move into the Titan room. Flashpoint with a chance now to try and grab this game and send RiVaL home and move their way to the finals. It's only going to be 10 more seconds before Dinosaur's back, and there's no way for Predators to return to base to defend. Flashpoint take game 2 and take the set quickly.
And with these fire minions, I mean, it's just all too easy for Flashpoint. We were just talking about how RiVaL at their opening Dinosaur does catch the respawn, but it's just not enough. It's an Athena, and there is no damage to be had. Matt Koiz is progressing to the finals.
He's popping off, and I think he's absolutely right. They were not the favorites coming into this match, I would not say, not based on the way RiVaL have performed throughout the entirety of Season 5, but your favorites be damned. It's Flashpoint who come in with a strong performance and show up, sending home the Pentakid. Unfortunately, there will be no more to his lore today. A strong performance for Flashpoint, and Koiz is on his way to the finals.
That last fight just got too split up there from RiVaL. As much as they wanted to try and play together, Jumpa forces everybody to disengage from RiVaL, but they went in two different directions. That's why we saw Keegs finding an isolated pick first and foremost, immediately followed up by an instantaneous collapse, and it was just too much damage to spread all around for RiVaL to handle in the end.
And there was definitely some curious parts towards the back end of that one. Some chases, you know, not always going right directly towards the objectives. But when Flashpoint are able to play that cleanly, when Jumpa's able to get to the back line that regularly on the Pele, then feel free to chase, my man, because when the team fights finally do break out, there's just no way for RiVaL to answer.
There was nobody to stop him in the end there, and Delaney knew what his job was at the very end of the game. He's not going to be able to join his team at the actual closing of the match, but he will be able to join him in the finals.
And we can see the head over here for the Pentakid. Unfortunately, that will do it for Coast. It's going to be Matt Koiz and the rest of the team of Flashpoint that move on. Let's get over to the analyst to break down the set.
Thank you so much, Finch and Taco there. Inbound, how are you feeling about your boys?
They played lights out. This is the Worlds performance that I wanted from them. They deserve it. All of them are good players, and hopefully they bring it to Astro and make it a good set tomorrow.